I'll call the meeting to order. And why don't we proceed to establishment of the quorum?
Director Cotton,
Here.
Director Zuka,
Here.
Director Covington, here, Vice President Bella,
Here.
President Wheeler,
Here.
we have a quorum.
Thank you. Public comment. There's no one present. Did we get any comments? Thanks. Oh, pledge of allegiance. So German, since you haven't been around for a while, we should.
No problem. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have any public comments?
No comment.
Agenda review, any additions, deletions, items that anyone wants to pull? No. Okay. Acknowledgements and presentations,
We have one item.
right?
It is that time of year again for us to consider proclaiming Water Professionals Appreciation Week. So Allison, rather than maybe reading the whole proclamation, we'll read a couple of key whereas clauses.
Whereas water is the lifeblood of California, and without safe and reliable water, no community and no sector of the economy, from high tech to manufacturing to agriculture, can thrive or expand. And whereas, depending on where you live in California, your water may come from a nearby well or river, or it may travel hundreds of miles through canals or pipelines to reach your tap. Regardless of where it originates, your drinking water is filtered, cleaned, tested, and distributed in a process carefully managed by trained water professionals. And whereas water professionals at local public water and wastewater agencies work 24/7 to plan for the future, maintain and upgrade their systems, and improve the safety and resiliency of local water supplies for their communities. And whereas thousands of essential water, wastewater, and recycled water industry professionals in the state dedicate their careers to keeping drinking water, recycled water, and treated wastewater safe and reliable for use by Californians. Now, therefore, it be resolved that the Mid-Peninsula Water District hereby declares October 4th through the 12th, 2025 Water Professionals Appreciation Week, and extends its sincere gratitude and appreciation to the water and wastewater professionals who work 24/7 to provide excellent, essential services to our community every day.
Okay. We have to adopt that or, yeah,
But a voice vote is fine, but.
all in favor?
Aye.
Followed by signatures.
I'll come around.
Okay.
Okay.
Very good. So. Moving on, consent agenda. Anyone have questions regarding the consent agenda?
I'll move approval.
I have a motion and a second.
A second.
We have it. Thank you.
Director Zuka,
Yeah.
Vice President Bella,
Yes.
Director Cotton,
Yes.
Director Covington. Yes. President Wheeler.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to item 6, hearing and appeals. Do we have nothing on the agenda for that?
No.
Nope.
Capital Improvement Program. For resolution 2025-24. The contract. Who's?
I am.
Good.
Yeah, so this is to consider a resolution authorizing.
Who are you?
Oh, I'm
Sorry.
This is.
We just, they didn't say we were nice. I know.
Yeah, we should acknowledge that this is Sarah's first meeting as operations manager. And Brenna's officially management advisor, supporting the transition, so.
Yes.
Yeah.
glad to be here and wanted to thank Ren for sticking around and kind of easing my transition into this
Yes, thank you, Rhoda.
first meeting. Do I read the the subject matter or just kind of?
You
Okay,
don't need to read the whole.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, so basically what we're asking for is a professional services agreement with OCMI for sort of two separate projects. One is for Dairy Lane, it's for continuation of pre-construction services. So bidding and I'm just gonna read this, sorry, I'm nervous. Construction management for the design phase of the Dairy Lane, not construction management, I'm sorry, the design phase of the Dairy Lane Operations Center and construction management services for the Folger Drive. We have an existing contract with OCMI already for the pre-construction services at Folger. So they did a constructability review and some specification development. And as you know, we also have Nolan Pam contracted for the design services for both Folger and Dairy. So the Folger Drive EOC project is nearly ready to move into the construction and bid phase. And the Dairy Lane site requires more project management support through the design development. So we selected OCMI because we already have previous experience working with them, and they've also worked with our architects, Nolan Tam. So we've had a good experience with them so far in the initial contract, and so we'd like to do a contract amendment. Their proposal included for the Folger Drive, 3 basic tasks, 1 for procurement and bidding support, 1 for construction management, and then through its subconsultants for lead and construction testing services. They'll provide special inspection and construction management inspection. And then for the Dairy Lane location, they'll continue to provide design phase project management support, a master scheduling development for both Dairy and Folger Drive, constructability reviews and cost estimating. So the grand total that we're asking for this contract is $733,575.44.
And just to add, if you recall, we've kind of talked before about how ideally we want kind of a program manager to look at both building projects and to think about not only, each project individually, but the phasing and relationship between the two of them. And this is something that they do. They have schedulers who will think about the phasing and that also, the moving of our stuff and our people, and just help us work through all of that in addition to the technical details. And so, yeah, that is our recommendation to go with OCMI. We, Sarah mentioned, we started with a small scope, worked with them, got to know their team. We're happy with, the work that they've produced. And so we'd like to move ahead with the bigger piece.
Did these guys submit a bid though, or was this? Because we knew them already was awarded?
So there were a couple individuals that were recommended to us, that we spent kind of a lot of time discussing and working to, discussing a scope, and just that kind of dragged on and then didn't happen, mostly because they just didn't have the time. So we did that a couple of times for other individuals. And then that we were introduced to OCMI. So because of where we were in the schedule and the time, we didn't do a full RFQ, full bid process, but we did spend a lot of time vetting them. And that's why we did the kind of small scope first also, just to.
So OCMI were not the lowest bidder, they were probably the only one that kind of came up with the scope of work.
Yeah, we, upon recommendation from others, we reached out to them rather than doing a, kind of a RFQ and comparison process, given the history and the timing.
And the percentage cost on construction management versus the total cost of the project is within
It's within, I don't remember how
acceptable
the
ranges.
numbers worked out, but they were within also the
Like, do they
numbers
have
that
percentages
Nolan
on
Tam
that?
had estimated. Yeah, that we carried in the soft cost estimates. from both projects. So it's appropriate.
That's a lot of money too.
It is, and keep in mind, it's for both projects. I mean, the big one is the construction management piece during active construction.
Mhm.
Also, this covers an assumed, construction duration of 12 months. We expect it to be less than that. And therefore, everything is time and materials, therefore we'd,
And
all goes well.
what actually falls under special inspections?
That is the hardest to explain, but it's like some, like the city will require certain things like testing of like concrete integrity, things like that, where
There's concrete rebar, if there's any welding going on, it's things that.
You need to bring specialized people to do that?
Yeah, they need special certification
welding
for like
and that.
welding, they need specialists, and we're using high strength concrete, but.
Because
it-
concrete is not, I mean, you put the block and you send it to the lab and they crush it and, you know.
Right, and that's part of this scope also, is to do that, so it's not just special inspection, but it also material testing, so.
What's the construction cost on Dairy Lane?
the latest estimate,
Dairy Lane is
the
around
Dairy Lane,
13.
13.
Yeah, so this is less than 10%.
For Dairy Lane, the scope is just the pre-construction, it's not full
Right.
construction management for Dairy Lane.
Oh, yeah, sorry, and what about Folger?
Cold, Forger is the one that's full.
Yeah, it's closer to
Yeah, it's
five.
4.5, I
Yeah,
believe.
4.5 to 5, that's for.
I got 600,000, right, for that.
Have we included a contingency in this?
We
or
didn't include an contingency in this, we discussed it, and we're kind of leaning away from doing that for professional services in general. And knowing that we're really hoping the 12-month scope is generous.
Okay.
So that's putting this through February 27th for completion?
Yes, a generous estimate
Okay,
on the scope, on the duration.
we're anticipating sooner.
Yeah.
Okay, because
It's all time and materials, and one of the bigger costs is the inspection cost, so if the contractor is quick with their work or is ahead of schedule, we just don't pay for that time or for the inspection time out there, right? So,
Days.
and typically contractors want to get in if the weather's good, they want to get in, get it done and move on to the next one, so architects, engineers are sometimes a little conservative with the duration of the time of work, so hopefully, we're hoping that the contractor will complete their work ahead of schedule or ahead of the given schedule. And that will lead to some savings because we won't pay for the inspection time,
Right.
essentially.
But the the current schedule estimate is 9 to 10 months, and that's still being relatively generous, because we're doing, the new building is a prefab metal building that will be pretty efficient to put in. We have interior remodeling work. It's not terribly extensive, so.
Some seismic
Seismic
work
retrofitting.
on the existing building there, so
And
it's not a lot of work,
landscaping
but
and a
it's,
little bit of grading, but not.
yeah.
So if we are going out to bid in October, then we would probably start in January or February.
Yeah, I mean, we'll work with the contractor to figure out
Yeah.
what schedule would work, but
Just selection process, negotiations.
And the holidays.
we'd award in November,
Holidays.
so probably
Yeah.
January, February.
But we've also been given the approval by the city that we'll be able to do work during the winter time or something too? right?
Yes, yeah, because we're
Typically,
very
they don't
limited
do,
disturbable.
yeah, winter
disturbing of
construction. Yeah.
land, so they're fine with us.
Yeah, we're not gonna move a lot of dirt, so
That's
it's
the reason.
excavation of some foundations and so on.
Yeah.
More than anything else, yeah. Okay. Any other questions?
No.
No? Okay. Anything?
Make a motion to approve 25-24. As presented.
I'll second.
Yeah.
Director Cotton,
Yes.
Director Covington? Yes. Director Zuka,
Yes.
Vice President Bella,
Yes,
President Wheeler,
Yes. Moving on to the regular business agenda. Consider approval of MPWD cross connection control plan. So this is. Sarah, are you doing this?
It's kind of a joint effort,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
I think Kat's gonna kick us off, but, and we're gonna pass the presentation around a little bit.
Yeah, I'll start it off, if you wanna go to the next slide here, so. This is, we've developed a cross-connection control plan. It was a huge effort. This was a new regulation that came out of the state. Took a long time, probably worked on it for a good year. And it took quite a few folks. Trevor, who's here and will be, giving part of the presentation as well, a water system operator, Dustin Swift, lead operator who isn't here, Alberto Maldonado, also a water system operator, Jonathan Anderson, lead operator, Michael Anderson, superintendent here, Renna, and then of course, when Sarah joined, we immediately threw it all at her and said, get this to the finish line.
But AI didn't do a really good job with you on that one. I mean, you look less real than all the others. Doggone AI.
Oh.
We're gonna name it.
But yeah, our stellar team, and also a lot of work from Hanson Bridget. They reviewed, they were learning the
Yeah.
regs as we
Very-
went,
Very
so,
integral.
hand in hand, so. And like all new regulations, we kind of, and especially big ones with big mandates, we went through kind of the 5 stages of grief, right? Like there was denial, anger, definitely bargaining. Do we really have to comply? What if we don't comply? Depression, ultimately, we all got to acceptance, right? And so that's the goal today, is to get you guys, you'll go through probably similar reactions on some of these aspects. But ultimately get to acceptance and adopt an ordinance that will implement this. So.
Great. Thanks for that intro, Kat. So our aim tonight is to secure the board's support in developing and maintaining our cross-connection control plan that aligns with the state board's policies. The objective of a cross-connection control program is to ensure effective prevention of cross connections within our service area, and therefore provide safe and reliable drinking water for our community. Trevor is going to present a little bit more on that in the next slide. Compliance with the state water board's cross-connection control program policy handbook is mandatory. They developed a new handbook and it requires us to implement the program and then document the program through a written plan, which we need to submit to them for approval. The regulations require us to ensure that each applicable facility connection has an improved backflow prevention assembly, along with the proper installation and annual testing. And I'd like to pass it on to Trevor, who's going to present a few slides to further describe the risks associated with cross connections in our community.
And I want to point out that Trevor is one of several of our operators who stepped up, took all the training to become a backflow tester, and then also continued the training to become a cross connection specialist and got those certifications. So he is officially the expert in all things cross connection.
We're gonna blame you.
Ask him the
All
really
right.
hard.
Thank you, Kat and Sarah. So what is a cross connection? As you can see on the slide here, cross connections are physical links between our potable water supply and non-potable sources. If not properly controlled, backflow can occur, contaminating our drinking water with pollutants, pathogens, or chemicals. How it works out, there are 2 types of cross connections that we have to worry about. There's low hazard connections, which do not pose a threat to the public water supply, but may affect its aesthetic quality. And high hazard cross connections, which pose a threat to the potability or safety of the public water supply. Both types of cross connections pose issues when instances of backflow occur, which backflow is the reversal of flow of liquids, gas, or contaminants into the public water supply. There are 2 ways that backflow can occur. Back pressure, which is caused when the customer's pressure is higher than our pressure. Commonly would be pumping systems within the customer's, piping, and back siphonage, which is caused when the public water pressure drops to subatmospheric, commonly could be caused by main breaks, fire hydrants being pumped out of, this Venturi effect with high flow running through a main as well. All right, next slide.
So that could happen quite a bit here because of the hills we have, right? If it's a flat area, it's a little bit less risk of that vacuum situation, but because of the hills, we have a leak at the bottom of the hill. It could really drain the rest of the hill up top and cause those backflows that.
Yeah,
Don't
we
give us
have,
thunder, man.
for sure, that's a big, the
Sorry.
pressure gradient. are a huge concern.
I get excited, I'm an engineer, I gotta.
Fun stuff.
All right.
Um,
Ixnay.
all right. This slide has connection types and use cases that are considered high risk. The cross connection control policy handbook gave us appendix D, which provides us with a list of high hazard connections. However, much like the rest of the cross connection control policy handbook, the state's list was vague. So in our cross connection control plan, we've augmented it with some more clearly defined high hazard uses. And that is in our plan if you want to look at it. Most obvious high hazard risk to our water system come from commercial and industrial connections. Many of these connections already do have backflow preventers, but some of the older buildings in Belmont have been built and connected before backflow protection was common practice. So with our plan that we've developed, we will require all commercial and industrial connections to have a backflow preventer. For residential, it's currently hard to assess the danger of residential connections within our water system. While there's a very real threat posed by residential connections, generally the scope of a backflow incident originating from a residential connection is much smaller than that from an industrial or commercial connection. This makes these backflow incidents harder to identify, track, and trace. As an example of this, if one or two neighbors were to get sick from drinking pool or irrigation water that backflowed into the system, most likely, you're gonna blame food you ate recently, something like that. You don't normally say, my tummy hurts, probably the water. It's not usually how that goes. So if it's not a huge, block of people, it may go unnoticed and unreported. With that being said, backflow incidents from residential connections do occur. And I have a couple relevant examples here. In 2010, there was a plumber in Mactier, Ontario, who connected the home sewage pump to the municipal water drinking system, resulting in a boil water notice for the whole community. In 2012, in Commerce City, Colorado, a contractor hired to install a water softening system, hooked it up to the customer's sewer line, which resulted in a large lawsuit. And both of these two incidences highlight one big concern of residential connections, and that is that we don't know what people are doing with the water behind their lines or who they're hiring to work on it. And with so many of our connections being residential, that's kind of a big variable. There's another incident in 2012 when a swimming pool backflowed into the public water system, resulting in a boil water notice for 441 connections in Franklin Parish, Louisiana. And finally, in 2015, water was back siphoned from a sprinkler system in Corpus Christi, Texas, resulting in a boil water notice for E. coli contamination. Now, side note, I would not drink the water in Corpus Christi.
That was from a fire sprinkler or irrigation sprinkler system?
That was from an irrigation system. Which, fire sprinklers as well pose a large threat just because of water degradation, lead in the pipes, and if they add any additives, antifreeze and stuff as well.
Could I ask a quick question about
For sure.
this while we're on the topic of like lawsuits and people doing unfortunate things? If I read this summary correctly or understood it correctly, it sounded like before this new ordinance or handbook, it was the customer's problem if they were responsible for a backflow issue that contaminated water, but now it looks like it's the water district's liability issue.
Yeah, that's what the biggest fundamental shift is. Instead of, you being a homeowner and a bad actor or just, sloppy, it's like Now it's on the water district. You should have prevented it.
Yeah.
You should have identified the hazard and protected against the hazard, even though the hazard is on the customer side of the meter.
Our
So-
responsibility to protect our water system and those who use it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of one of the scarier implications of this new policy handbook that the state has released.
There are still requirements for the customers, you know, they're required to install the devices, they're required to maintain them, right? They're required to let us on site. All of the additional responsibilities though for the hazard assessments, and we'll get more into that, but there's a lot more things we have to do now to make sure that they have the appropriate devices.
Yeah. So, and I'll wait for the rest of the presentation, but I have another follow-up question on that.
Okay.
We'll get to it, but say more, please.
Okay, we're almost done. In addition to the examples I mentioned, there are two other high hazard risks of particular concern in the community in Belmont because of our services topographical features. You'll notice them on there. We must be aware of hydraulic pressure differences created by pipe gradient. So in ours, we have 40 feet as the standard that would trigger it being a high hazard. Any pipe that's 40 feet above the meter has a little over 17 pounds of pressure behind it. So therefore, if there's a pressure drop in the water main, it's much more likely that these homes will drain into the public water supply. Meaning, you know, if that happens, you could be drinking your neighbor's water. Generally, sounds off-putting, it might not be a huge issue, but as we established, don't really know what your neighbor is doing in their home with their water or who they're hiring to do stuff with it. And then another common hazard due to the hills in Belmont are sewage and drainage pumps. Anytime a pump is connected to a non-potable system, that results in a health concern and high hazard connection because of the, again, back pressure potential for someone not knowing what they're doing, hooking that non-potable system up to our line with a pump and pumping it back into our water main. So that's all I have on these two slides. Do I have any questions?
Do you have any idea how many residents are gonna get hit with this?
We don't know yet, and we'll kind of go into our approach of how we're gonna, you know, identify and triage this whole process later.
We have around 7,200 though that we need to assess.
Total
Single
single
family.
family.
Yeah, roughly 72, and we have 8,117 or 20, depending, I think recently went up. Total 72 unprotected is what the county, basing off what the county sent over to us.
So, I mean, the odds of me having just a resident in Belmont, not having a hot tub or a pool, not having a septic system or fire sprinklers, irrigation system, they're just like the most boring client. But are they gonna still need this or no?
We'll go through the process. There's, there's a kind of a,
It'll be a lower
A
priority
tiered-
though, for sure.
yeah,
Yeah,
we're not nearly as concerned, but the question is, how do we know what houses those are or not? So. That's our job.
according to the handbook and law, I mean, everybody has to do it, eventually, everybody, right?
Everyone has to
You
have a hazard assessment. What we constitute as a hazard assessment is outlined in our plan. We've left it fairly vague as to, we want to put as minimal burden on our customers as possible.
So the council moving their head, right? Let's watch the legalities, there we
I
go.
mean, it's a lot, and we're still trying to figure it out, and we're trying to come up with a flexible approach. Otherwise,
There's many
it's-
years to do this though,
Yeah.
right? So we have some
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, so when we write the plan, we get to choose our implementation timeline, and we've said 15 years to do all of this.
Like I mentioned
my
before,
other
there
question.
probably is a lot of money coming down from the state for all of us.
Yeah, there is.
That's definitely a
Speaking- no,
factor
no,
for us.
Speaking of that, are there grants for these things?
Nothing we've seen,
We looked,
nothing we've seen so far.
I wonder if there's.
James, we had a discussion earlier today with James actually about, there is a process for some unfunded mandates, some certain programs the state selects where you can apply for funds if that program is considered part of that. So we're gonna track it, see if cross-connection programs get under it. And then if we do, you know, Again, we'll get to it later, but if we do hire additional staff or anything like that to meet it, we'll track it and, apply for those funds, but there is no pot of money to go after cross connections.
So here's my follow-up liability related question. Maybe this is more for you, Julie. But in looking at this program that we're putting together, 15 years seems, that's a long time. If we're making progress on our plan over 15 years and we do have a large event that we're now responsible for, is there a way to shift liability away from us because we are sort of implementing that plan? Or would we still be liable for an event like one of the ones that Trevor mentioned?
Yeah.
We have a boil water notice for 400 people or something.
Under the risk shift that's occurred, I think you're gonna be liable. Obviously you can, try your defenses and say that you tried to mitigate that risk as best you could. But the way that they've shifted, the state has shifted the risk, it is gonna fall on water agencies to be responsible now. And I could see some things where like you did what you were supposed to do and then they removed the device, right? And so they were truly a bad actor. That could give you a defense, but and the sooner you get it done, the better. But it's such a heavy lift that I think you just have to kind of do a cost benefit analysis of, we've never had an incident, as far as we know. We don't think the risk is that great, and so balancing out the reasonableness of like having your agency, accomplish all of this versus what the risks are, I think you're trying to take a balanced approach.
That is why,
Have we had any discussion coming down from JPIA about the liability issues associated with this particular?
No, they haven't engaged on it. It's kind of, we'll talk about later, like. Although we were in theory supposed to have the plan adopted by July 1 with every other agency in the state, we have hardly found a single agency that has adopted it yet. So we're all still figuring it out. So yeah, the insurance is not ahead of us on that.
Are there any other states that are ahead of California on this?
Right, Oregon and Washington might have something somewhere. I don't think it's the same scope, but I do know that some of the templates that the guy who helped us, who put on the class, Ben Bennett, I think he did some of his stuff from them. I don't know the scope of what they're doing though. I never looked into that too hard.
I think, these are really good questions, but I think a lot of them we do kind of start getting into in the presentation, so.
Okay, so just for a little more background and context, Cross Connection program, regulatory stuff has been around for a long time, 30 years at least. The evidence that we found for ours started in 2005, may have gone even before that, but that's what we were able to find. And then it was updated again in 2015 to keep up with new standards. We work very closely with San Mateo County, the environmental health, to help primarily enforce the testing requirements. Historically, the whole program was a little more loose and was sort of reactionary based on whether there was incidents or high-risk situations. And then whenever there were issues with enforcement for testing, they kind of relied on us a lot for that. They make the initial communications with the customers for the testing requirements. And then if they don't comply, they kind of kicked it to us in the past. Now that's shifting. We have a new agreement with them, and I'm going to talk about that in the next slide. As we previously mentioned, the water board's new, I'm just going to call it the handbook from here on out. That's okay. It's better than a 6-letter acronym. Became effective July 1st, 2024, and it replaced the previous regulations, which were in Title 17 of the California Code of California Code of Regulations. It replaced them in its entirety. So this handbook is the regulations now. And these rules again mean that we as the public water system have a much clearer responsibility as far as implementing the cross connection control program and documenting it within our plan. Next slide. So there is an agreement with the San Mateo County Environmental Health Services that came about as a result of this. Well, apparently there's always been an agreement, but when I asked for it, they handed me one that was clearly drawn up in response to the new handbook. The new handbook requires that we, as the public water service, coordinate with other local entities who have a vested interest. So San Mateo County Environmental Health, they have certain roles and responsibilities. They have ordinances that govern public health. So they have things that fall within their jurisdiction. So it's benefits us both to work more closely with them. Our plan does outline very specifically what the roles and responsibilities are in accordance with the agreement. We also pay them $46,000 a year for this agreement, which historically, you know, it was basically for them to just make that initial contact with the customers regarding the annual testing requirement. So now they're going to do different things for us. We're going to be meeting with them more frequently and developing that relationship so that we can take full advantage of our money spent with them. They do have enforcement authority. They have different enforcement authority than we do, which is primarily to shut off the water service. That's what we can do. They can do other things like enforcement orders and fines. And I'm going to get more into the enforcement on a later slide, but yeah, they also do record keeping. They're going to be helping us with hazard assessments to the degree that they have information that they could feed us that would feed into our assessments. They also maintain a pretty extensive database. And I'm going to pass it back over to Kat. We've covered a lot, but
Yeah, so we talked a bit about the shift of responsibility, and that's really what's kind of governing the need for such a big and expanded program. What does that look like in our case? It's a big burden on us to review and assess the hazards of all 8,100 service connections. Keeping in mind, we have a staff of 21, normal, right? So, it expands the considerations where we were primarily focused on commercial and industrial, and a little bit of residential uses like the sprinkler systems and pools to, any kind of residential use we have to think about. We have to assess all 7,200 single family residential homes to some degree. And then it's actually an ongoing process where either you have the backflow preventer and that has to be tested annually and we have to ensure that that's done annually, or even if you don't need that, you need kind of a periodic review of those hazards to see that nothing's changed. So this is an unfunded mandate with significant ongoing resources needed for sure. So taking all that to mind, as we were working on this plan, we're thinking about one, how to design and develop the plan, and then the next step of how to implement it. If you go to the next slide, kind of guiding principles. We wanted the plan to be as flexible as possible in the implementation because as you can tell, there's going to be a lot of lessons learned along the way, and we want to be able to adapt. So rather than having something really descriptive wherever we could, this is working very closely with Hanson Bridget, making sure we're still compliant, but we have the ultimate flexibility everywhere we can. Right now, there's a bunch of uncertainties that we can acknowledge. When we ask customers to do something, we don't know how compliant they will be, how much effort and, follow-up we'll need each time. I can already assume it's going to be quite a bit, thinking about myself, and if I get a message from the water company, it's not my highest priority usually.
It's always my highest.
But
9 months.
to be fair, we're all busy. Not so. We don't yet to your point earlier. How many customers will need to do full hazard assessments versus how many will have to install backflow versus how many we can kind of have assurance yet that they're not gonna have real risks we need to worry about. So our goal is also, while we're balancing all of this, to ease the burden on our customers as much as we can, and at the same time, control liability and protect the district system. So it's going to be a balancing act. We're gonna need to adapt as we go. And so you'll see kind of those aspects as we talk about how we plan to implement it.
Do we know if San Mateo County Health has added staff because of this mandate?
I don't know if they've expanded.
I mean, they're taking on a lot here. Oh,
They're not fully taking on any of that. They've made it clear to us that we're still the primary.
We are taking on a
responsible
lot.
We're taking-
no, aren't they saying,
They're expanding their scope some.
testing, record keeping, hazard assessments, enforcement?
But the mandated testing from the county has been around for
Forever,
many
yeah,
years.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I received the notice every year, you have to do this or else, you know? Or somebody.
Yes,
Hazard
they do.
assessments are just ones that they have in their records or that are ongoing currently, so they're not gonna take on doing hazard assessments for us,
Yeah.
which is a bummer, it would be cool if they would.
Yeah,
Try to keep their scope as close to what it currently is, but at the same time, all of us agencies are kind of pushing them to do more, so.
Is there any help potentially that we could get from the city in, like, for example, for permits when people are doing construction projects or anything that requires a permit that we can just tack on and say, oh,
Yeah,
you need a permit, you have to put this back to a.
that's part of the process, is working closely with the city, also data gathering from all sorts of sources, so.
Building
Yeah.
officials.
Okay.
Even with like major remodeling permits,
Absolutely,
all of that will fall into same pot, basically.
yeah, and, you know, we coordinate with the city on building permits all the time, you know, they kick them over to us, so it's a matter of.
Yeah, because one of the
More
notes that
trigger
I
if you
put
get
in
over to
was
us.
when we did the outreach and all of that, you know, which we'll come to later. But we need to involve the city to teach them and to train them to forward those complaints or whatever questions to us, not for them to, but they need to understand it as well. you know?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay.
Just quickly going back to the county health slide, these, that are listed here, they're super summaries, and I didn't include a real huge description of what these mean, but by no means does it mean that they're fully taking all of these
Okay.
different elements. I can get more into that later if you're interested. So the cross-connection control plan itself has 10 required elements. Basically, it describes how we're going to achieve compliance with the handbook, which is the set of regulations. The previous regulations contained 6 elements that were required, and the handbook expands the requirements to 10. It also provides additional details on the original 6 elements. I can't really see which ones are bolded up there, but I'm gonna kind of run through them. There's 4 sort of new requirements. We have a program coordinator. I think the coordinators, there's always been a designated coordinator.
I think it's been the GM that's technically
Yeah,
responsible for
yeah,
implementing the
yeah.
program.
So now the
Who does not
program,
have the specialization.
right, now the program coordinator for our program, needs to be a certified cross-connection control specialist. I'm just gonna call that a certified specialist from here on out. There's a whole accrediting, organizations that certify these just like they do for the backflow prevention assembly testers. That specialist is required to be able to be contacted within 1 hour of an event. All of the hazard assessments need to be conducted in consultation with a certified specialist. We're going to get into what the hazard assessments consist of a little bit later in the presentation. The plan contains our process for public outreach and education. This will be to help educate staff, customers, and the community on the importance of cross-connection. And another new thing is that the plan contains procedures for investigating and responding to actual backflow incidents and reporting those to the state. So they want to know what's going on now. That was not a requirement in the past. And it also requires us to coordinate with the other local entities that might have things to do with cross connections, like county health. Or in some cases, maybe even like PD, if we needed assistance with unruly customers or fire departments as we're dealing with, you know, fire suppression systems and that kind of thing. So along with the plan, well, actually, the ordinance comes first and reestablishes our authority to implement the cross-connection control program. Our previous ordinance was basically the written plan. Now the ordinance, we added some revised definitions, and the ordinance sort of hereby incorporates the plan as a set of regulations, and it also incorporates the handbook. So it, by default, we're just claiming all of those regulations as ours. It gives the general manager the opportunity to make revisions to the plan moving forward. If there are substantial changes to the plan, it would require water board approval again. It does give us one primary method for enforcement, which is discontinuing water service. And we can do that for a number of things, which I have another slide on enforcement specifically, but we can issue enforcement in coordination with the county for not installing, for not allowing inspections, not testing, not maintaining or repairing. There's a whole slew of things that are mentioned in the ordinance that we have the authority to enforce if they are not compliant. So this is the biggest impact to all of our operations, is the requirement to perform these hazard assessments on all connections to the system, including single-family residences. And we are required to identify all the potential hazards and the degree of hazard and make sure that they're adequately protected. The assessments are not new. Like I mentioned before, previously they were more done on a reactionary basis, or when a new connection would come in, you would assess what things are being, you know, served by that connection and require backflow in the appropriate times. Now we are required to conduct initial and follow-up hazard assessments across a defined schedule. The state board didn't specify a time frame for completing the assessments. The assessments must be conducted or reviewed by a cross-connection control specialist who's required to document their written determination. The new requirements emphasize looking for hazards not only at the service connection, but also within the customer's premises. So we're talking about things like fire sprinkler systems, irrigation systems, boilers, other equipment, sumps within basements and things like that. So we're required to identify those hazards. Yes, and hazard assessments can also be performed via administrative methods, like was just mentioned. We can review permit documents, we can look at GIS information, review county records, we can send out surveys and questionnaires, we can gather a lot of data that would come before going in for a physical inspection.
The assessments have to be done annually?
No, once every 15 years is what we're aiming for those who are not required to install a protection device.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The devices
Doing the
are
math in my
required to be
head, I'm like,
tested.
you need to clone yourself about 100 times. Okay. That's right.
Tested annually. So it's just still a big,
So tested annually.
the backflow prevention
device.
devices, yeah.
15 years comes out to 2.4 a day per working day we have at MPWD.
Okay.
Actually, the other math exercise we did initially was like, okay, 7,200 residential connections. If we say they take about 2.5 hours to do with all the documentation, we can schedule them perfectly, right one after the other. That's one staff person, about 10 years to get through that. So,
Yeah, but the annual testing, for those who haven't, that's already in existence.
Yeah, our condo,
There.
I'm familiar with that. So, and that's roughly 1,000 business connections that we currently probably
1,000
already have
connections.
backflow.
Yeah.
That's an annual, so we already know that.
We have it written in the plan too, if they do install reduced pressure assembly, that in lieu of the hazard assessment, then all we need is to know that within the last calendar year, it passed a test, which the county will help us on. So the more people that get those RPs is very helpful for us.
Yeah, but the difference now is that those annual testing cost us usually, right now is zero times zero resources. Because that's the county program.
Right.
Now, it's gonna be ours.
Well, we're not doing the
Well,
testing.
yeah, yeah.
We don't do the testing.
Let's go to the next slide, because it's gonna spell out kind of for the different types of scenarios. And I realized, I think the written copy you have, we updated the cost numbers, so look to this version for the cost numbers. But starting with, okay, so if we have new connections, kind of this is the easiest scenario to go with. You have a new single-family residential connection, they apply for service, they get a hazard assessment. We're thinking these, we would probably conduct ourselves. We can also require the customer to do it instead, but since there's not that many new connections a year, this is doable, and also it's, you know, the home isn't really lived in, you don't have those kind of other concerns that you do entering really kind of an active lived-in home. And so we do the hazard assessments.
So when you say, sorry, just to be clear, when you say new connection.
Yeah.
Are you talking about turnover, new person, or are you talking about a new service connection? Like a new pipe?
Both. So if it's turnover, yeah, or a brand new building.
So on the brand new building, why don't we just require it as a standard, they have to install an RP device?
Because you have to do a hazard assessment.
No, you don't.
It's
No,
No,
required.
you don't have to. You can just go straight to RP.
So.
That was
why don't we do it that
discussed,
way then?
um, it wasn't, we have. How it's written is that we could require that was discussed as a possibility. Currently, it wasn't decided to necessarily have that be the sole option, because essentially in Belmont, if you are a new connection, you're gonna be required to put in a fire sprinkler, and therefore gonna be required to put in an RP anyways. So it's kind of already there, but that is definitely was discussed, putting that in there as well, just to.
Exactly, so the fire sprinkler system and the standing water in the system is the hazard.
Yes,
So
that would be considered a high hazard, and therefore you don't really need to look in the rest of the property, because they've already have the highest level of hazard there, and therefore need an RP.
So if a hazard is identified, then the customer needs to have the RP installed by a licensed plumber. That's the thing too. It has to be a licensed plumber. You know, if you're looking at things for us to do versus the customer, we aren't licensed plumbers, so, and it's on the meter side. So we really don't want to be messing with the meter side
Mhm.
of the line, so that's on them to go hire that and do that. And then, once that's installed, it has to have the annual testing done by a certified tester. Or if we choose not to have them automatically install an RP, they still have to have that ongoing hazard assessment every 15 years, which would be on them to do.
So the installation does not have to be by a certified,
The installation of an RP is by a plumber.
by a regular plumber.
A
The
licensed,
testing will have
a
to be-
licensed plumber.
Yes.
Testing is by a certified
regular
tester.
But the testing will have to be.
Yeah.
Are we responsible for the testing or is the customer?
They're responsible for doing it. We're responsible for
Like it is
tracking
now.
and making sure it gets done.
Record keeping.
Okay.
The county actually is still primarily responsible
For record keeping as well.
for just the testing
And
Record
then-
keeping of the testing.
and then-
of the testing.
Okay, so now, once the tester performs the test, it goes electronically to the agency.
The county has a database that the tester fills out and submits once they do it, and goes automatically to their cloud service, and then they'll track
It
that.
goes to the provider though,
County.
because, you know, mine is in Cal Water, it goes to Cal Water.
For us, it will go to the county, and then we can request those records from them. So I've gotten a couple lists, they'll provide us with the information we need.
Okay. So the tester will send it to county health.
Yes.
Okay.
And then if you're a new non-residential or multifamily connection, you're required to have an RP. They're all required to have an RP, and of course that's tested. So we threw up here kind of typical costs to think about. These are evolving, as you can tell, with all of these requirements across the whole state. This is kind of a growing market. There'll be new companies, new folks, you know, providing these services. So right now, getting a hazard assessment done by an independent certified specialist appears to be running around $500 to $800 a survey. So, you know, you as a homeowner would accrue that cost if you need to do it every 15 years. to get an RP installed by a plumber, it obviously, it depends on how big your connection is, commercial's much more, typical residential. It looks like it'll be around, you know, $1,000 to $3,000. The devices can be close to $1,000 themselves or more, so, and again, licensed plumbers and who knows how busy they'll get with all of this work. And then your annual device testing is currently $75 to $250 a year. So, remember I talked about the 5 stages of grief? Denial, anger. Nobody's overly happy with these requirements.
Trevor's gotta be stoked. Job security on steroids.
Yeah.
They said you want to be a cross connection specialist, I said, sure.
So,
I didn't know what it actually meant at the time.
now you do.
Yeah.
Now you do. All right, so existing fire protection connections, those are pretty easy as well. We'll reach out to customers, make sure they have an RP. If they don't, they'll have to install one by 2034 and then do annual testing. And then, of course, once they're already compliant, just continue their testing. We do believe that there's a number of businesses that have RPs already installed that will have to upgrade because they're not kind of the current standard technology.
Yeah, there are a couple, for fire protection specifically, some of the older systems maybe don't have backflow prevention assemblies. They have what are called backflow prevention devices. There's a lot of fun acronyms. And those businesses, the state has set the deadline. Every fire protection system must be protected by at least a double check. We've upgraded that to an RP, which is the highest level of protection. Unless there are some flow restrictions, an RP will reduce your flow. So if it will reduce it too much for your fire suppression system to work, will allow you to continue to use your double check. But essentially in 10 years, we have to have all of them, well, 9 years now, all of them have to be upgraded to a testable assembly. So that'll be first thing we start working on. That's.
And then next is existing non-single family residential connections. Similarly, we're gonna reach out, notify customers. A lot of them already have devices installed and are compliant, so they just have to continue. If they don't, they have to reach compliance. Our plan says we'll have all of them reach compliance by 2030. They actually have a shorter time frame. Remind me from when we tell them. Is it when?
The multi-family.
When we reach out and say, you need to install
We
protection.
give everyone, when we reach out, I think we have it written, we give them, was it 90 days to, I think install, so, we give ourselves 5 years to hit every connection, but once we notify you, you need an RP as a business, it'll be 90 days, 3 months. And we are able to issue, extensions if necessary, but that'll be a case by case basis and hopefully not the standard.
Yeah, and you can imagine just all the communication we're gonna have to do to get this to happen and follow up, so.
How many PSI did they lose in an RP?
Roughly 10 PSI for an RP,
What is RP stand
reduced
Reduced
pressure.
Pressure
Yeah.
principle, yeah.
I'd like to point out that the
MPSI? That's a
cross connection plan has an amazing list of
lot. For
acronyms.
each, because you use.
Acronyms I had never heard of.
The whole thing, yes, roughly 10.
That's why some of the businesses or some of the homeowners do that double check or other because of that loss.
Yes.
It's a lot.
Page 85.
But technically double checks, this is where the state gets weird, because double checks have never been allowed to protect against a high hazard cross connection, although the state has also allowed them to be used on fire protection systems for years, while simultaneously qualifying those as a high hazard system. So this is where there's a lot of stuff, everyone's figuring out stuff. So that's why we skip that, and if you can't put an RP on your fire protection system, we would prefer you do that, because I imagine down the line, the requirements from the state are gonna get more stringent and turn into an RP, potentially, who knows, but it offers us protection.
All right. The last set of flow charts, this is the biggest bucket of customers because it's existing single family home connections. Like I said, there's about 7,200. So once, we're gonna immediately tackle the other ones because those are known higher risks. This will start by conducting what we're calling a paper hazard assessment, where we start looking at those different data sources. We mentioned the county's gonna provide some location of pools, working with the city to also identify lists of, pools, sewer pumps, if they have that information. Topo data we do have, and we have a wonderful GIS person in-house. So we'll be analyzing some topo data to see where they're likely to have the sewer pumps if we don't have, other data that suggests that. It's gonna be a big data gathering effort. We also are developing a questionnaire tool to send out to customers to gather this information as well. Again, we don't know how compliant and how many of those will get back, but it's a tool that we have. So if any of the data that we have identifies a hazard, that's really easy. We go ahead, we go right to having them put in protection by a licensed plumber within 90 days of noticing them.
So as soon as they find out you have a pool, you need an RP.
Once you get notified,
Once you get notified.
have 90 days. But again, that does come from the state. The state has identified auxiliary water systems as a high hazard, and a pool technically could be considered an auxiliary water system.
Hot tub.
So again, we're not allowed to really say you don't have to, because the state said you need a protection.
Even like a water feature.
Yeah, a
Water feature. Auxiliary water systems are essentially anything you could stick a hose in and pump water out of. So fountain, pool, hot tub, pond.
Shouldn't most of those already have that?
I think.
What about our rain barrels?
We have backflow device already on.
Oh, man, just empty them before someone comes in.
Stop that rain barrel program.
Has been discussed.
That would be part of the assessment or questionnaire is finding out what existing protection we have.
Many pools too, they have a built-in filling setup. We'll have an air gap on that. We decided to go more on a containment style. There's two styles of protection. Isolation is within a customer's water system. They have various devices. Containment is at the meter. The problem with us being a small district is going inside of everyone's home who has various setups and verifying, making sure every pool's got a functioning air gap that meets the state standards. Becomes difficult. And even still, technically, even if you're filling it from how it filled, with that setup, it's protected, but all it just takes is someone to say, it's not filling fast enough. I'm gonna stick my hose in the pool. I'm gonna turn on that, and that's gonna fill it as well. All of a sudden that hose dangling in that water is an unprotected cross connection. It just takes main break for that pool to start draining into the main. So because it's a large body of water that you can stick something in and then draw water out of, it is still a concern. Hence why we want to just protect at the meter and then we're covered.
So there might be some customers that come to board meetings. We're, but we understand this, and so that's part, and we'll get to, communication plan, but I'm very much thinking about that. We need to be as sensitive as possible and provide as much support as we can, but, we are putting a burden on the customers and a lot of customers. And it's gonna be over a long period of time, because obviously we can't notify every customer right away. We won't be able to dealing with everyone within 90 days, right? So this is gonna be a long-term program to address all of these. The trickier situation here, right? So if we do our paper assessment and we identify hazard, what if that assessment is inconclusive? People don't return the questionnaire. What confidence do we have that they, really, this is a discussion with Anson Bridget, but do we want to rely only on that questionnaire? Do we have enough confidence to really certify that there's no risk based on the questionnaire and the other sources of data? So at some point we say, okay, customer, you need to have a hazard assessment conducted yourself by a certified specialist. And then if there's a hazard identified, obviously install protection. If not, have that assessment done every 15 years on a rolling basis, so.
Okay, so for single family connections, this backflow device is gonna be on the customer side, right?
Yes.
But where behind the meter, where it goes, it doesn't matter, it could go anywhere all the way up to the
No.
shut
No.
off valve.
We have it written, I think, I forget the distance we have in there, it has to, unless we allow an exception, it has to be pretty much directly behind the meter. Solely because the longer you distance it from the meter, the higher likelihood that someone can cut a T in. And it also makes it easier for testers, for us to verify.
Do we have anybody who hooked up before the meter, illegal?
But
And I don't know, Michael or Redham have come across situations like that,
I haven't seen it.
Okay.
But we
So
require-
it'll be,
That's our current requirement.
for that,
That's our current requirement. What's described is in our current specification. So anybody installing new RPs, and it's very standard in California to do it right after the meter. So you want to minimize that distance for the exact same reason you
Okay.
described.
Yeah, we
So-
pretty much stay within 3 feet of the meter is what we look for. Anything beyond that, and we do allow it, we require them to sleeve the pipe to
Okay.
protect it, to,
Alright.
hopefully.
so you get
not
to
allow
the
people
edge of the
access.
sidewalk and then you put the device probably, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The city requires it's out of the public right of way too.
Yeah,
though,
of
so
course, yeah,
sometimes
yeah,
have
cause
to
you
push
go
back.
probably on the private right away. Just across the line from the public right away, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
all right,
Yeah.
everyone's favorite
Yeah.
piece.
Here's down to the gavel,
Sheriff Sarah.
That has been known to be a nickname of mine. I don't know what I just did to myself. So our ordinance does detail various types of non-compliance that we can issue enforcement for. In all cases, I think our approach would be first and foremost education of the customer and, working with them to try and resolve the issue, maybe sending some, making phone calls, just providing a lot of customer support throughout the process. Our remedies that we have is basically the discontinuance of water service. The informal methods that we would have, I just described, we could also do written letters or written warnings, things like that. The county does have additional enforcement options outlined in their ordinance that include official administrative enforcement orders, which may or may not include fines. The fines are authorized through the California Health and Safety Code, and they're specified as not exceeding $500 per violation per day. I don't think there's many cases of the county actually fining people for not doing any of this stuff. They
Not that I
basically
know
turn it
of.
to us and we work with them until the situation is resolved, but at any rate, they are avenues of options for us. And any customer determined to be non-compliant also has the right to a hearing with the district manager to appeal. I listed out a bunch of different things that could constitute non-compliance. Requirements to install the backflow preventer assembly, requirements for testing and reporting, requirements to maintain or make repairs to the devices. There are also requirements for the certified testers that the county would have enforcement over. Refusal to allow inspections, or in extreme cases, maybe there's a situation where someone has posed a real significant threat and caused imminent danger, caused, damage to our system, and we would definitely need to, take quick action on situations like that.
we do have an option as well, if we say someone was going to do a hazard assessment and says. This is a serious danger, either discontinue water service or we can have an RP installed and then bill the customer for that as well. I don't foresee that being
Will be a common thing,
I don't think so, because
Fair. but it's a tool.
it is, yeah.
Right, so we wanted to put this slide up here just to show where the rest of some of our neighbors, where they are, this plan was originally due on July 1st, but we got an extension because we wanted to make sure, do our research, make sure that our plan was as consistent as it could be with our neighbors. We don't want to be requiring one crazy thing and they're requiring another crazy thing, so we did the research, and a lot of these agencies haven't, gotten their plans submitted. A lot of them don't have a lot of details. We're not really sure what the city of Redwood City is going to be doing yet. Foster
They don't
City is still
know what they're doing
developing
yet.
their plan, so they really don't know what they're doing yet either. Coastside County Water District and Soquel Creek Water District are the closest to what we're doing. Coastside having about the same number of connections, where they're requiring the RP installation for non-residential or on-site surveys, using either the district or the district agent. And then for residential, they're also requiring on-site surveys, meaning on-site assessments, within 15 years. And then we have the city of Milpitas, who required that for non-residential, the surveys, hazard assessment surveys be completed by cross-connection control specialists by September 2025. Essentially a few months after the regulation was effective.
They're already done.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm interested to see how that went for them. And then for residents in Milpitas, they're relying on self-reporting and preliminary sort of satellite administrative data for the residential assessments as an initial pass, similar to what we're doing. Cal Water, I can't confirm this 100%. Have we found something in writing what Cal Water is doing?
Michael had reached out, just very basic, that was even pretty early on, but they were pretty tight-lipped about what they're
Yeah.
doing, but they mentioned they're going with a
The
questionnaire.
assessments, yeah, the questionnaire is basically just mailing them out to the customers and going with that.
Yeah, so we feel that the approach that we've outlined is flexible and fair and consistent with at least what our closest comparable agencies are doing.
So as we develop the program, we'll also continue to develop really a comprehensive communications plan. As you can imagine, there's a lot communicated, a lot of different levels. Of course, we'll start with developing a really robust web page. Actually, this little screenshot is a little sandbox thing that John Davidson threw together to kind of give us a head start that we can build from. We'll develop informational mailers and, email communications and whatnot that'll really be tailored to the specific hazard and conditions as we identify it. Really spell out like, oh, you have a pool, this is why it matters, this is the real risk, we understand, here's the resources and tools available. We anticipate conducting in-person workshops as these, and Zoom workshops as these customers are notified. We can invite them in to better understand that the issues and what they need to do. And certainly recording those workshops and making them available on the website as we conduct them. So then now they'll have videos. You have this hazard identified, you need to do this. Here's a helpful video. Having our certified cross-connection specialists available to customers for questions. I mentioned we have several folks, 3 folks now who are certified and likely a 4th who will be certified. But having them available by phone and email as questions come up. And, continually reviewing information produced by other agencies and organizations, trying to adopt the most clear communication tools available. I'm hoping things like AWWA might develop tools that will be useful, APWA perhaps, and certainly just other organizations, especially bigger ones with entire communications departments. So as well as our own, and you know, of course, utilizing John Davidson. So like everything, the other aspects, you know, communication will be adaptive as we go and learn.
On this communication plan, make sure you include, I think in Belmont, we have like 7 neighborhood associations.
Yeah.
And we have many homeowners associations.
Yeah.
And those, you know, if you educate the people who run those associations, you can bring them on your side. And they can help you disseminate the information to their neighborhoods and their neighbors, you know, and. Because this is gonna be huge. I
Yeah.
can just see the numbers coming in. I'm on fixed income and all that stuff. I don't have time for this. So. And, you know, these associations and these groups could be, you know, after they get the initial shock. It could be, advocates of for the plan.
And I'll also definitely recommend, so pretty much every association is gonna have a management company that they use, who's really gonna be the tip of the spear.
It's the homeowner association we're talking about.
Well, the homeowners association uses a management company to
Correct.
pay the bills, to schedule this
Correct.
kind of stuff. They're the go-betweens between the HOA board and, you know, the testing and stuff that go, the vendor relationships. So it may be easier to drive this, having some of those folks on your side to, especially, you know, in this community, I don't know how many homeowners, not homeowners association, how many, management companies there are out there. There are several big ones in the state, but within the area, those people will be easier to work with than probably the boards. Because the boards aren't gonna have a clue what this is. And most of them, hopefully, have got existing infrastructure that this just may be a minor tweak that gets it over the finish line. But that management company will be a good resource to push that through.
But the neighborhood associations don't have.
No, that's for individual single family homes and stuff, yeah.
And, you know, for a whole neighborhood, you know, like. Our neighborhood association has 885 homes, you know, so in the Hallmark area, so it's huge, you know.
Yeah.
And
Sterling
they
County, same.
have access to almost everybody, you know, through their email.
Yeah.
So they could be.
Love it next door, you get to go.
Oh. Still want to stay
Sorry.
next door,
But it's
but
there.
I'm sure.
But
Sterling
you know,
County.
the good thing about it is many of them
Yeah.
are, you know, dormant or quasi dormant. And those that are meeting on Zoom.
Mhm.
So it'll be a lot easier
Makes
for
it
somebody
easier.
here. And you could be transmitting to everybody else without having to leave this place.
And, you know, don't go into all the details, but we have another resource. Because we adopted the new Express Bill Pay system that does allow us to directly email and to gather email addresses. We also have that resource too, where before we didn't have very many emails from customers. So that's going to be very valuable.
How would we send it to what, constant contact or?
Well, we can identify and pull their email addresses. I don't know if there's, constant contact or not, but there's options.
Yeah.
When we get there, there's many steps before we get to really, reaching out to customers like that.
So the communication plan, then that'll be before customers start getting notices that they have 90 days to do something, which I would suggest we have a pretty robust communication plan before people get that.
Definitely.
90 days sounds like a long period of time, but when you're trying to learn something and schedule something and you
Yeah.
pay that much money,
That's
it's really not.
We want all the communication out there. We want all the guidance available and ready. And, you know, as we mentioned, we can grant extensions. Our goal is to work with customers. It's not to.
So, sorry, one more question. In those residential customers, we're going to be pushing them, if they need a device, toward a certified licensed plumber. Dare we get a network of those people that we want to say? we
The county,
recommend?
the county provides that.
Oh, good.
So
For testers,
for-
for testers.
for the testers, they do. So
They have
we
a
have to
whole
be
list of testers.
careful as a public agency, not recommending specific
No,
companies,
Or-
but we can
Have a list,
identify
yeah.
lists that exist and or potentially even compile, but identify lists that exist of here's how you find a licensed plumber.
Okay, that I think it'd be helpful for people to just at least know. How do I go about doing this? Instead of, oh, screw it, I'm gonna try to figure it out, just go to Home Depot or something.
All right, so this is just kind of the wrap up slide. If there's any other questions, but I mean. We do need to adopt this. It is a requirement, as much as I wanna bargain and say, what if we just ignore it and run away? That's not a real option. It does provide benefits, right? It's, while they're not the most common risks and they're not often the most severe risks, especially on the single family side, they do exist. And we have liability associated with them, so following all these steps will protect our system more than it currently is. Of course, we'll be complying with the regulations, and as always, our goal is to, community health protection, providing that safe, quality drinking water. That's our mandate. That's what we do. This is just another piece of that. Unfortunately, it is an unfunded mandate. That's why we are kind of taking this adaptive approach where, we have not asked for a tremendous amount of new resources from you, board. We will likely come asking for more staff or other resources at some point, but we just really want to get and develop the program and have real clarity on what we need when we know it, rather than just speculating right now. We'll need to adapt and learn as we implement it. We're focusing on outreach and education. We're gonna constantly keep an eye on the other agencies, looking for good ideas and making sure we're not out of line in our requirements either. And, as I said, our goal is gonna be to ease the burden on the customers as much as possible while still being compliant. So kind of the next steps tonight is to vote on that ordinance. We'll implement it. We'll keep you updated as we develop the plan develop the program and implement the program on how that goes. It's gonna be we thought the 1 year developing the plan itself was a big effort, but it's nothing like implementing this whole thing, so.
So the plan itself is basically got a lot of it, which is a consolidation of the regs that's coming from various different levels. And so every time they start changing their stuff, we're going to have to update this.
It seems like they've been on a
Just to-
5-year schedule, making changes to the Title 17 of cross connection. I mean, that's what it looks like. So I
Oh, yeah.
imagine in 5 years, there'll be some changes
Right,
that the district will have to account for.
well, maybe in 5 years, they'll have a better understanding of what they're asking for. We'll see. But we can't just get away with saying by incorporation rather than actually spelling all this out in the document.
We need to submit this to the state water board. They're gonna review and approve. At this stage, we don't know what level of, so sometimes you submit documents to the state and all they do is check the box and say you're compliant. They don't make any judgments of whether you did a good job or a bad job or reasonable or unreasonable. They just say you did it. We don't know if that's the kind of review they'll do, or if they'll come back and say, you're gonna do this in 15 years, that's too long, or anything. I think there was discussion of some agencies saying they're gonna do it in 100 years. Would they call out those agencies and say, no? So we don't know, and then any major update, like to it, that really kind of substantively changes it, has to go back to the water board for approval.
Right. Okay. But after hearing about Carlos's experience with his housing plan for the city, and what did he ended up with 3 or 4 submittals before he actually
Yeah.
got it approved.
This is the state water board. I mean, they're staffed by a lot of knowledgeable engineers. We
Right.
work with them routinely. It's the same regulators that we work with who regulate our other aspects that are reviewing this.
Mhm.
So, that speaks well. I just don't know the, perspective and policy they're gonna take on
Sure.
how they approve it.
Gonna mention that too, that the state water board is pretty reasonable. They have the they have the discretion on enforcement, so. Back to the question on whether, are we gonna be expecting huge fines from them? That's not really their approach either. They usually will work with us quite closely. It's not their goal to like fine and make money. They've been, in my experience, pretty easy to work with and reasonable.
They're going to run into a lot of problems with communities that don't have well-funded public water systems.
Yeah,
And they may be able to get funding out of the state. But it will probably go to the hardship cases
Yeah.
rather than to wealthy counties.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if there are, we looked into, there may be some financial assistance to, low income. The old guy who happens to have a hot tub because of a bad back and, and low income and all that, so I will.
We haven't seen them come out yet, but it's something that certainly we'll keep an eye on. I mean, same with the, forgiveness program that came out during COVID, right? That was a state program because we, as all the Prop 218 rules, we can't subsidize and kind of give away ourselves to customers. But the state can produce a program and we can steer all of our customers, say, this is a great program, you should apply. If you're eligible, it'd be great if they come up with that. I think, seeing how other agencies, even, in our area that are generally well-funded, well-run agencies, they haven't adopted their plans yet either. I don't know how many kind of have woken up to it, if we might see over the next couple of years as agencies and cities, wake up to it. Is there gonna be aggressive lobbying that might change these requirements? But we have no idea. So, and or with that, go after these,
Yeah,
financial assistance programs.
but in the meantime, we need to get going.
Yeah.
So, we're looking for motion,
No more questions? Comments?
as much as I love this program,
Have we gotten to acceptance?
yes.
Well, consider yourself lucky that
Right,
you're in San Mateo County and not Santa Clara County is all I'll say.
Yeah.
They don't have the county down there to do the testing for them.
I begrudgingly offer a motion to adopt resolution 2025 -20, what is it?
It's an ordinance. Ordinance. 132.
Ordinance 132, amending the water service ordinance. And superseding for the district, the cross connection control program plan, that one.
A second?
Vice President Bella,
Yes,
Director Cotton,
Yes.
Director Zuka,
Yes.
Director Covington. Yes. President Wheeler.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
forever.
Being very patient.
I'm surprised everyone's still awake after the pizza and the cross connection.
or not.
If you have trouble tonight, you can read the actual plan and
Okay.
I assure you.
Good job, guys.
And I will come in, Sarah, when thinking about it, as we're talking about the presentation and everything, I was like, this item is maybe as complex, if not more complex to convey than when we went through the rates. And this is the first staff report she had to put together and present, right? And so, sorry.
Okay, we asked.
They're not usually like
To
this.
adopt 30 million in bonds in our first board meeting, so.
Yeah.
This is still walk in the door.
Experience. It's just money.
The new sheriff in town.
I see your superhero outfit soon.
Yeah. All right, emailed me
badge.
with the.
I can do my superhero now.
So, as a follow-up,
Badge.
item 8B, resolution 2025-25, updating our compensation plan for cross-connection control specialists.
And this is an item that we might have otherwise put on consent calendar, but we figured it probably didn't make sense for you to adopt on consent before you had adopted the plan, so. Allison will.
So
This one?
Yeah.
This one.
To support this mandated program, we decided to see what other cities and districts were doing around us, and they're pretty much all doing a specialized position. So we've created our own position as a cross-connection control specialist. We met with the employee association and kind of went over the impacts of what this position would bring. Again, we told the employee association that this is all being brand new. We don't know what this position really is truly going to look like. They agreed because they also don't know exactly what this program is going to look like. So it is definitely going to be a work in progress. We will be working closely with them to go over anything that might change within the job description for sure. But for the most part, this is the position that we're bringing forth. And currently it's just one position. In the future, there may be additional positions.
So are we adding headcount or not adding headcount? That was what was not there.
Not at first.
So currently
And
we're
there
not.
was that before.
Okay. So currently, we're not adding any headcount. So if that is how, in regards to how we staff it. So if we staff it internally, which is how we're going to recruit first, then my assumption is that a water operations no. A water
System
operator,
operator.
water system operator, thank you. Would fill the position. From there, we would then assess the district's needs within 6
To
months
fill
to a
behind,
year. I'm sorry.
to fill behind.
Correct.
Yeah, yeah.
We would then reassess the district's needs in about 6 months to a year to see if that position needs to be filled.
And keeping in mind, we currently have two operator, or one operator, one maintenance tech, so we're showing it on the org chart open right now that we're recruiting for, so we have some, growth and adapting and, onboarding that needs to happen with County Plus. So.
So this position is gonna be the technician who knows how to operate that, or somebody who is a program manager and a technician.
This position is written to require the specialist certification,
Correct.
and their primary focus is this program. They'll have a lot of support from management. But this is their focus as a specialist, and it's written as a hybrid position where they still have, some of the duties as well as opportunities of water system operator. They can still take call, they can still respond to leaks and all of that. And because while this is going to be a big job, and especially as it's growing, it's not going to take 100% of their time every day. They'll still be able to, do the other maintenance and other related operator work. So it's not precluding them from doing that other work. Which, kind of really speaks to the way this district runs and why we thrive on such a small staff is that we are all cross-trained. We help each other out. Nobody's siloed. And so while yes, this is kind of a dedicated position, it's not a siloed position. And likewise, the other operators, especially the ones with certification, will also participate and support this program.
So to be a cross-connection specialist, do you actually have to have a water operator classification too in the real outside
In the
world?
real world, no, you can be just a tester and specialist without being an operator.
You have to have that backflow tester certificate first, and then you have to take another course and pass another test to become a specialist.
Okay,
At which point you don't have to maintain the backflow tester certificate.
right. But you do need to understand, have the tester certification at one point in time,
Yes.
so you understand the workings.
You have to know what's going on.
Yeah.
The tester exam is actually a written test and then a hands-on test on different devices. They put them in different situations. And you gotta tell them what's wrong with the device, why it's not
Yeah,
working.
The descriptions didn't really make that clear and so on. Yeah. I feel more comfortable with that, but it really is intended to be both a operator and a specialist process. Yeah, okay.
Education level, it's just a
Same as for an operator.
12th grade. And experience, some experience, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Any questions?
you have one of these to do one of those. The chicken or the egg.
Right.
And you know, most of us are subscribed to like water district jobs and other job boards. And we've been seeing these positions come out actually even basically right after the handbook came out.
Yeah.
Agents who started saying, oh my gosh, and creating the position and recruiting for it.
Industry.
And like I said, we're so lucky that we had so many people step up and do the training and get the certification so that we had such a pot of knowledge to help us develop the plan, and we have that same pot of knowledge that's gonna help us implement it, so.
Okay, I'll make this, resolution 2025-25 updating the Mid-Peninsula Water District Compensation Plan to add job description for cross connection control specialist.
Vice President Bella,
Yes.
Director Suga,
Yes.
Director Cotton,
Yes.
Director Covington. Yes. President Wheeler.
Thank you. So. Another interesting resolution coming up. Resolution 2025-26, authorizing key field staff to take home district vehicles. Okay. Allison?
So essentially, this came about that we needed to update our procedures policy for the vehicles that were being taken home, which was our on-call staff and our superintendent. So when we looked at the procedures that were established, I think back in 2020, they needed to be updated. From there, we went on the conversation of being, more prepared for emergency preparedness, looking at the historical practice of the district. Before, we used to have more vehicles out in the world. So when we used to have three field supervisors, all three of them would take home vehicles. As those positions became vacant and we never filled them, and we consolidated the position eventually into one field supervisor, it was just the one vehicle. So essentially, we just kept eliminating our vehicles out in the field. And with now being so adamant on emergency preparedness, we're looking to reestablish the vehicles to be out there more for our key staff, which would be continuing our on-call staff, our superintendent, and then our lead operators. So making sure that those vehicles are out there and the response time would be more adequate to service our community.
If you imagine like a large regional earthquake, right? The freeways are going to be jammed up, inaccessible. Perhaps water mains under the freeway might put sinkholes up and down 101 and 280, right? So if and when that happens, ultimately, the more vehicles we do have snaking their way around through the surface streets and to main breaks, the take-home vehicles will have our radio system. So if the cell network is not operating, we have the radio system. We can contact those folks no matter, what time of day, what day of the week it is. So it's
Except on the other side of the bay, they won't be able to come anyway.
no, but if the radio is working and, our superintendent who lives on the other side of the bay can start giving direction and talking with folks, that's a huge, huge benefit that we wouldn't otherwise have.
I didn't quite grasp whether all these people who were qualified to be on call would get to drive a vehicle.
Just a person on call.
Just
Just-
While they are on call.
while they are on.
Yeah, while they're on
Okay.
call. So it's just one person, every week somebody is on call.
And that is
But-
our current practice, even though we don't have a current written policy on it.
Right.
So it is
And-
important that we have that policy adopted for that practice.
So we're basically documenting that and we're adding the lead supervisor or the lead.
Lead
Yeah.
operator.
staff.
And the lead operators could be the person on call.
Yes. But the lead staff could take them home all the time.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's an option. They're not required to, they have to make their own judgment on their own parking
Right.
situation and all of that.
Okay.
We terminated this policy in Palo Alto. It was a disaster. I mean, we got cars broken into left and right,
Really?
equipment stolen. So, I guess if we haven't had it happen here, but we got rid of it. So I'm personally not a fan of it, but I mean, I don't know that I have a real strong opinion. I don't see it really moving the needle on disaster response, to be honest with you, because it takes 10 minutes to drive across the entire city. And once you get here, pick up a truck and go. But, you know, again, it's not that big of a deal.
It is interesting because in the last 10 years, the only trucks we've had broken into have been those in our yard gated.
Yeah.
You know, and that includes vehicles that have been taken home.
Yeah, I mean, if we want
All kinds of
communications in an emergency, it's not taking a truck home, it's take the radio. So I don't know what problem we're actually trying to solve. If it's financial, because if they come back in, we can pay mileage. That's what we do in Palo Alto, what we did in Palo Alto, I'm not there anymore. You know, if this is our current practice and documented, I agree, but you know, I just don't. I honestly don't think that this policy moves the needle on what we say it's trying to accomplish. It doesn't really enhance our response time. We're just too small of a district. We're not, you know, I mean, you know, especially since we're probably what, 45 miles away. 45 miles away to get in here, we're gonna shave another 10 minutes off of it to go pick up a truck and go, as opposed to just going straight to the water main site. So I think that for me, if we're trying to solve a communication thing, then how are we gonna communicate while you're remote? If we're trying to solve a disaster response thing, why don't we park someone here overnight? Like shaving 10 minutes off of it and all of this doesn't make, I'm not disagreeing with the practice. I'm just saying I don't think that the policy as written is actually solving the problem the way it's written. Given our size and given the distances and all that kind of thing. But I don't have a problem with people taking vehicles home per se. That's a separate issue. So if that's all we want to do is say, hey, we want to allow people to take vehicles home that are on call for these reasons, totally okay with that. But I don't know that I see the rest of it.
We're gonna be putting a lot more mileage on the vehicles, and since we do have a lot of people that live pretty far out from the district.
Yeah, so we would be roughly, if every staff member did take home a vehicle, we would roughly.
Eligible staff members.
Yeah, eligible staff members, we would be roughly putting in about 50.2 miles additionally on the trucks. Every day.
And I don't have and that's why I don't have a problem with that, is because that we're asking them to go back and forth and come back and wear and tear and mileage and cost and expense, all of that's totally fine. And it's an incentive to be on call, right? There's that. I don't know if we mandate it here or not.
We do require the person while they're on call to have it. And
Yeah. And so they're not having to come back in on their own vehicle and add extra miles, even with mileage and all that kind of stuff, you know? So again, I don't have a problem with allowing people, as long as we're not losing money on the break-ins and everything else personally. I 1/5 vote. It can just, even if it's a perk to allow that to happen, to get people to be wanting to be on call. That's enough for me. But I just don't want it to, I guess my only concern is I feel like the staff report is saying that it's gonna do something that I don't think it's actually gonna do. With respect to disaster response. You know, we could also park a truck up at Folger. We could drive right there and pick it up if we're worried about Dairy Lane going down, you know, like. All of that, there are options in there. But I'm totally fine with the practice.
And the trucks that are going home aren't necessarily all the equipment you would need to do a repair or whatever. The heavy vehicles that we spend a lot of money on or
it's
not.
not the big service trucks, it's not everything, but it's, you know, valve turners, which is kind of the first initial thing you often need when you respond, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's your standard emergency equipment, you know, valve keys, shovels, wrenches, your typical
But
stuff.
if you want to shorten the response time, put 4 valve turners out in the distribution system and then go get it. Okay, that's what we would do. We would stage our FSRs out in dead quadrants, right? They would be sitting there in a quadrant until they got a call, so they could be right there. That's the thing, I don't know that the vehicle going home is helping that. If you're going to come and pick up the valve turner, you're taking the valve turner home. Right? Is it a trailer or is it on the truck?
No, this is, we're talking about keys.
Yeah, I
Key,
I
key,
misspoke,
yeah,
sorry, I'm
The
not.
key handle,
Yeah,
Got it,
key
got it.
handle.
not
So just the ticket.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Oh,
physical tools.
got it.
but can get stolen too.
They-
Plumbers like it.
So again, no problem with the practice, but if we're, if we're really trying to move the needle on response time.
Yeah.
Then I think we need to do more than just provide a truck, yeah. But I'll make a motion to approve with all of that complaining.
Well, to that, I mean, and I guarantee you, Matt and I did not talk about this at all, but I've already expressed the same thing to you. I mean, I spent my entire career on call, never took a vehicle home. Never, you go to, I go to the firehouse, grab the fire truck and go to the scene, so. And I used to respond at least 2-3 times a week. So. Yeah, I didn't see, I mean, it's a nice perk that we wanna give, so. That's the way I saw it, except the on-call guy, the on-call guy. That makes sense. And to be honest with you, I had people that worked for me that did not wanna take. They chose not to take because they were afraid that something's gonna happen to it, somebody's gonna scratch it, somebody's gonna break the window, somebody, And here you all also, say preferably because of parking or whatever. Yeah, there could be other reasons.
Yeah.
But many said, you know what, I'd rather not take a department vehicle because then I'm responsible for it and it's too much of a responsibility. I'd rather take my vehicle. So it looks like we're gonna go backwards to what other people did, but.
And I mean, I'll just add one thing, is if we're trying to incentivize or reduce the the burden of a commute. There are other ways that we can do that as well. So at SVCW, we do 3 hours of free charging. If you have an EV, we don't incentivize ICE vehicles and gas, but there's that. We're also talking about picking up bridge tolls for everybody that crosses the bridge to reduce the cost barrier, right? That kind of stuff. So again, I just get back to what problem are we really trying to solve? Is it a perk for reducing the burden of transportation? Well, let's tackle that. If it's reducing the burden of having to drive your own vehicle back and forth, got it. If it's communications and radios and that kind of thing, well, satellite phones and radios and everything else. I mean, again, I'm fine with the practice, and I think that there's a lot mushed in here that isn't necessarily solving all of those problems.
I think overall it was kind of strategically placing our vehicles in places around the Bay Area that in a major emergency, you don't know what freeways are gonna be shut down, who's gonna be able to show up, all these things.
But in a major emergency, you're not required to report here. You're going to have to report to your nearest jurisdiction with our vehicle in that situation. Right? So that's what the NIMS and ICS stuff says, is that you don't come to your jurisdiction, you go to your closest one. So then again, the vehicle's not being here means that they're not here, they're out. And you're gonna take them to, if you're in Santa Cruz, you're gonna take it to Santa Cruz. If you're in Pleasanton, you're gonna take them to Pleasanton. If we want them here in an emergency, then they should be here. So that was one of the issues when living here. If there's an emergency in Palo Alto, I'm reporting to Belmont. I'm probably gonna try to drive down to Palo Alto, to be honest with you, but the law says I should report to Belmont as a disaster services worker.
Any questions?
No, I appreciate that feedback, though. I think that's, again, I kind of agree with what you're saying, that the improvement in the emergency response time is relative, especially the last point you just made, that you're supposed to report to your local agency. But I don't know if we want to reword this, but I think again, as a perk, I think it's a good
Yeah.
incentive for staff.
Again, I'm fine with the practice, right? I'm not sure why, the reasons why. Those are two different things. So I'm happy to approve it on the merits of the practice. And,
Revisit.
Oh, yeah, well, I can ask, I mean, would the board prefer that we change the wording and bring it back next month? Or are you comfortable with the wording as it is?
I mean, I'm comfortable with that memo. In terms of what it's saying and, you know, cause it's more procedural, right? And the resolution, yeah, no, I'm fine with those. I think we can improve it. With the resolution and everything else, I don't have a situation.
I'll second them.
We can put it off. You want more thought, but
No, I agree with, that we can revisit this if we're having theft issues
Yeah.
or expenses start
Yeah.
getting out of hand, then we can revisit. This isn't like forever and
Yeah.
ever.
it might be interesting 6 months down the road to see how many vehicles are actually going home. Type of thing. Just some ideas of 5 a day, is it 2 a day, is it 1 a day? Type of an idea, just so we have some idea of what we're doing.
Definitely.
And we can revisit it again,
Revisit.
but. I think we have a motion and a second
Motion, okay, to do what, to revisit?
to approve as is.
Okay.
Director Zuka,
Yes.
Director Cotton,
Yes.
Director Covington,
Yes.
Vice President Bella,
Yes.
President Wheeler.
Yes.
Trevor, have a great night.
Thanks,
Thank you for the presentation.
Thanks, Trevor.
Good to meet all you.
Have fun in Japan.
Thank you.
Everybody's going to Japan lately, it seems like.
Thinks the exchange rate was pretty good
That's
earlier.
what it
in the
was.
year.
I had a whole bunch of people went to Japan beginning of this year.
Yeah.
I mostly followed my friends going and felt like I was missing out. Alrighty, good. Have a good night.
Good night.
Okay, the next is item 18. Receive a report on this key event.
Yeah. No, it's just an informational report about the monies that we brought in. They never really left, but we were able to record them as revenues this year because they've been on our outstanding checklist for over the 3 years and it's greater than $15. We did publish an article in, there was a publication in one of the newspapers about this twice on August 1st and then August 7th. 22nd. So as of September 15th, we're able to claim those as our own.
As long as the newspaper article didn't cost us more than $35.
No, I didn't. It was like, I think it was what, 18?
They're expensive.
They are expensive. That was only said slightly,
That's
like.
keeping newspapers in business,
It
is
really
all
is.
those things.
Yeah,
How much was it?
It was,
it was,
It's very-
it was 1,800,
it
I
was,
think.
yeah, it was.
Wow, half.
almost
So much
2,000.
so that obviously we're gonna make sure we have.
Yeah, we need a policy to make sure that as
I
cheap,
know.
it should
Yeah.
cost more than.
This is for like the throwaway
Yeah.
newspaper?
Yeah, the Daily
Daily
Journal.
The Daily
The
Journal.
Oh,
Palo Alto one is cheaper, but it's harder to claim that Palo Alto is our local.
Right.
It's much harder. than
You can do the Daily
Journal.
Buzz.
So just a
So-
quick question, so all those little ads that you see for the contractors and all that, they're paying that much money?
Depends on the
It depends on the
size.
size
This is
and the amount of words.
Of course.
We have a lot of
Put it on there, but yeah,
detail.
it's expensive.
Wow.
And, but we also published it twice.
Yeah.
So,
No, there are some people who you see their names
Yeah.
every week,
Right.
every day,
I
you know?
know.
Mm.
It
A
is
lot of money.
A lot of money.
So the biggest one on there was a business that went bankrupt or disappeared or something.
Disappeared. We sent them a check for refund of utility billings and they never cashed it. They never
No.
claimed it and.
And we did for that one, absolutely. We sent them a separate letter to a certified letter,
Yes, we sent them a letter.
because it was so big and
Oh,
no. No claims, so.
No forwarding address, obviously. Yeah.
No.
Okay.
All right.
So. Item
Next is me.
No, we've got, Anna and Jim. Oh, no, I'm the wrong way around. Yes,
It's
I can't spell, you know, letters and stuff that are difficult to keep track of.
And just a quick report on the Boston meeting that we had on September 18th, which we're finally back to our regular meeting in Burlingame. We had 2 members that were participating remotely. One of them was me. And the CEO was in the hospital, so yeah, he had it was a scheduled procedure. And he's doing, I think he came back to work this week, but at the time he was still in the hospital. He was out for about 3 weeks. Anyways, then Allison Castema gave us the SFPSC report. And on the water conditions and the system storage, you know, to keep us in, it's still good, still very good. So the state reservoirs are the historic average, and I'm sure we're gonna be hearing a little bit more from, who's gonna give it, Rena? You are?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Sarah said she would be tired by the time we got to this point.
Yeah, so I'm gonna skip this part, I'll leave it up to
Are you
you.
sure you're thankful he's here?
And then Steve Ritchie gave us the regular SFPSC report, and he focused primarily on their wildfire management efforts. As you probably know, the system, the Hetchy system goes through a lot of wildfire hazard areas. And they have a lot of different agreements, mostly with the different CAL FIRE districts that they go through. And including mutual aid and automatic aid agreements with local fire departments as they traverse the whole area all the way up to our Crystal Spring here. So the program for the city of San Francisco focuses on emergency firefighting, obviously, infrastructure, which includes the auxiliary water supply system, separate from the potable water system. And then on action item, we needed to vote on the city manager, the general manager, the CEO, to negotiate and execute a contract between Bosca and the Water System Consulting Group, which I think Kat is very familiar with, on the legal counsel's final review. And this is the program that we're going to do with Valley Water. It's $160,000 approval. They're gonna pay half of it, and Bosco will pay the other half. And then on the tier 2, 24 member agencies have already approved it. We are one of those. And there were 2 left. And I think they are going to approve in October. And that will be everybody, hopefully. One agency, we're not sure. One is almost like, but yeah, I think Hayward is kind of. Okay, and Bosco continues to work closely with SFPSC in tracking and engaging in the State Water Board's effort on the Bay Delta Plan. And then we had it was a quasi closed session, but it's gonna have to be in an open session because it's the GM performance evaluation, which we did on a closed session. And now it's gonna go on the open session, and it's a known fact that according to the CEO's employment, the CEO total compensation will be increased by 3% at the beginning of October 1st, 2025 through September 30th, 2026.
He's already been there a year?
Yes.
Wow. That was
A
fast.
year already, yeah, Tom Schmegel, yeah. So hopefully we'll do this at the next meeting. That will be done. And then our next meeting will be on November 20th at the Burlingame Community Center. And Kat, I don't know if there was there a meeting of the water managers?
There was. I don't have a lot to add. I'm glad to hear 22 have adopted. My latest number was 19 agencies, so
Yes,
we're
24,
close.
24 adopted. Yeah.
We are close.
Yeah.
The other thing that's been going on, as I've mentioned, we've started working with Bosco's consultant, Hazen and Sawyer, doing our water demand projections for the urban water management plan. Those are projections of our demand through 2050. So, Drew Bost, our water resources coordinator, has been working really closely with Hazen and Sawyer, commenting on their model and refining our projections. So we actually our projections are finalized. I won't share them with you because Drew will be here at the next meeting to give his update and he'll go into more detail. But we're at that point, and then the next step in that whole process is for the consultant to take the collective demands from all of the agencies and run various scenarios on the collective demand. They're not reporting anything out on an agency by agency basis, right? It's only the collective. If there's like, for example, really slow economic development, really high population growth, different things like that, what that would look like collectively, kind of a sensitivity analysis of demand projection. So that's all, it's been summer and things have been generally kind of quiet, so.
Good. Any questions? No? Now we can go on to the regional water situation.
Thanks. So, yeah, let's take a look at the US drought map, and I was comparing this map with the one that I had in the July report. And the things that caught my attention were up in Washington, that red spot up in Washington actually got larger over the past few months, just indicating that their drought is continuing. And then also in the areas that cover the states of Utah and Colorado and Wyoming, that area there has gotten a lot larger than it was in July, just again, an indication. But one bright spot is in Texas. This map shows along the Rio Grande Valley and the Mexican border there, the drought area actually, it went down in terms of the drought impacts. In July, were experiencing an exceptional drought, which is a dark blood red color. And it's, went down to just an extreme drought. And I just kind of wondering if maybe some monsoon weather or something got in there and dropped a lot of rain on them. I hadn't been paying that much attention to weather, but, still, there's more and more drought in western part of the United States. I think maybe if you go to the next slide, Alice, from California, what I found here is even though we're seeing more and more of the drought creeping throughout the state, what I saw when I compared this map to July's was that the area of no drought, the white area, has been shrinking. It shrunk about 10% from July, and then the abnormally dry, the yellow area, increased by about 9%. But then the other four categories of drought, moderate drought, severe drought, extreme, and exceptional, really didn't change much during the summer months. But, the abnormally dry is growing, and depending on what kind of rain and snow we have this winter, we could have more abnormally dry area creeping throughout the state where it's not affecting our Bay Area region too much. Who knows, next year it might. Now, if we go to the next slide, and Lewis kind of brought this up, this is a slide that I grabbed from the state website, but it's also one that the SFPUC typically shares at the Bosco Water Management meeting, just the major reservoirs in the state. And as Lewis mentioned, what's really nice here is to see that pretty much all of the reservoirs, with the exception of the Pine Flat Reservoir, I don't think you can see that on here, are all at pretty much their historic level, which is that green bar going across or above it. And in summertime is when water's going out of the reservoirs, right? For people who are, at home irrigating their lawns, or farmers growing the vegetables that we all partake of, and it's a time of the year when the reservoir levels typically go down. So it's nice to see that they're kind of at historic levels. And again, we'll see what happens this winter with snow and rain and how that might or might not change these reservoir levels next year in the springtime, which is typically when we start to see them fill up. But it doesn't look too bad for going into the fall season. And then the next slide is just something I get from NOAA. It's just kind of an outlook. This is a 3-month outlook for seasonal temperatures. And so for California or an area here in the Bay Area, the temperatures look like they're going to be potentially leaning above the normal temperature. So maybe a little bit warmer fall than, might expect. Last couple of days, we might say a little bit more wet than we might have expected. I know this morning it was, pretty wet and a lot of thunder and lightning. The precipitation is this next one. Again, what Noah is saying is there's an equal chance of it being either a wet or a dry, next 3 months here. So again, not really telling us what to expect, but that's what they're prognosticating. Going on the next slide, this is from the water managers meeting, the precipitation in the Bay Area. It looks like as we end the rain year, which goes from October through September, we're gonna fall about 7/500ths of an inch short of the 30-year median 12-month. So not too bad. Not drought type rain, but not heavy rains. We had some months where we had a lot of rain, and we had other months we didn't have much rain at all. So I guess you could just say it's almost a typical year for the Bay Area in terms of precipitation. Same thing with the Hetch Hetchy precipitation for calendar year 25, the red line going in there, it just kind of started out kind of slow and then kind of caught up, and it's very similar to the calendar year 24. And then so you see now as we get into the summer months, the red line and the green line, which is 2024, just kind of followed each other. And it shows that we're, both of them fell short of the 30-year median solid black line. So, rainfall was a little bit short, and that's kind of what we saw in the preceding chart. And then the next one, which is the upcountry precipitation, you see here too, that we're gonna fall a little bit short of what the 30-year median average is for the 12-month look of precipitation. So just a little bit less than a normal year, not too bad, not too good. And then the snowpack. Of course, we're at the end of summer, so yeah, we'd imagine there wouldn't be much snowpack, but just generally overall, the red line showing the 2025 snowpack, it was less than the historic 30-year median. It ended a little bit sooner than, the 30-year median actually ended a little bit sooner than the calendar year 2024 or snow year 2024 snowpack. So just kind of a little bit less than an average type of snowpack year. Next slide, regional storage gets us information from San Francisco. And as Lewis said, we're looking pretty good storage wise right now overall in the Tuolumne system. So up in the Sierra Nevadas, they're at 93% of full, with the water bank at Don Pedro being completely full 100%. And here locally, we're at 77% full, but overall, the system is at 90% of capacity with 3.26 million acre feet of water compared to last year around the same time. Last year we were at about 96% full overall, so about 5% less, but still looking pretty good for water storage. What's the next slide, Alice? The next slide, this is a slide that they don't always put in there in the report, but they did, so I thought I'd throw that in to share with you folks. This is the Tuolumne River that's available to the city. So, the water coming to Tuolumne is all accounted for. The farmers get some of the water, or get most of the water. And when it reaches a certain point, then the regional water system gets the water, right? So what this report is saying is if you look at that hatched black line there where it says 306 on the right, yes, at PUC was saying that they would, in order to fill their entire system, they would need to have 306,000 acre feet of water available to them. Well, this year, that blue box that says 381 is what they've received. So they've actually gotten or received more water, slightly more water than they really needed to fill the system, and that was made available to them. But you compare that 381,000 acre feet with what they got in actual 2023 when it was really wet. What was made available to the regional water system was 2,700 or 2 million.
2 million.
Yeah, 2 million, almost 2.8 million acre feet of water, a lot. It just kind of tells you how much less water was available from the watersheds up in the Sierra Nevadas for the system. But yeah, it was enough that it would have filled the regional water system. And just a couple more slides, total deliveries for the entire regional water system. The folks here, that the week that I pulled this off of, which is the first week in September, averaging 226 million gallons of water a day. Kind of really hit the target of the 5-year average, but a little bit less than the calendar 24's water demand by the regional system at the same period of time. It was interesting, if you look at ours, here in our, district, the 2024 and 2025 kind of mirrors the regional water. The 2025 water demand that we pulled, on the system was, less than last year for the same period of time. You know, maybe to give an idea of how much water we're talking about. So in 2025, in August, we pulled 115,200 10 units of water, which translates to about 86 million gallons of water. Last year for the same time, that 122,028 units of water translates to 91 million gallons of water that was that we pulled from the system. And then the second to the last slide is just the cumulative water demand on the system. The green line showing where we are now. So we've taken 766,718 units of water. The 5-year average is 786,000. So we're a little bit less. Again, it just seems like we're gonna fall below that 5-year average, which has been our history the last number of years now that I've been putting this chart together. We've just typically been falling slightly lower than the 5-year average, meaning that our folks are taking water conservation seriously, and they do a really good job conserving water. And then just this last slide, just showing that the fire potential, you know, as now we're getting out of the summer months, not too bad for California in terms of fire potential. Low risk areas in yellow and little risk in green. We don't have any of the high risk areas. There's some moderate risk over along the Mississippi river valleys possibly, but it doesn't affect us. You know, it was interesting, this morning, I was awakened by the thunderstorms. I'm not sure you guys got them here in Belmont, but in Gilroy, you know, it sounded like I was in a surround sound theater with a thunderhead just going over my rig there. And it was raining pretty good. And as I drove in this morning in the dark, I mean, I saw, I don't know, 15, 20 lightning strikes. I'm just kind of wondering if there were any fires, but you know, a few weeks ago, we had the thunderstorms come through. They said, I saw a paper article a few days afterwards, there was like something like 4,600 lightning strikes from like Southern California all the way through, you know, into the Nevada, Utah from that thunderstorm.
Those were dry, correct?
The dry, dry. And then there were a couple of fires that started because of
Yes.
that. One in my neck of the woods and then one in Sierra Nevada that they finally.
Last night, there was a sprinkler too.
Oh, well, down in Gilroy and Morgan Hill, there was a thunder shower and it was pretty heavy at times. And then this morning I drove in.
It's here, it sprinkled.
Yeah, we got it, but it wasn't significant, but I mean, when it was coming down, it was coming down pretty heavy. So that's the water picture. Looks pretty good going into the winter season. Let's just hope that we get some good snow in the Sierra Nevadas and we still have enough water that melts that fills up our reservoirs.
Thank you. Management reports. Start out with financials.
Yeah. So second month into the fiscal year, since we didn't have a meeting last month, we brought in both July and August results. I'm just gonna go ahead and skip over July, but we did provide the schedules there for you to review and then just dive right into August since that's where we're at right now. So net surplus from operations is about $1.8 million, which is about $400,000 more as compared to the same time last year. The water charges were about $600,000 more than we were at this point last year. So, you know, as a result of the rate increases for both January as well as July, you know, that's a significant increase for that. Total interest revenue we received so far is about $175,000. So that those definitely coming in a bit higher than that. Now that's all sources. So some of that belongs to the COP funds, and then the rest of it belongs to the kind of the general operating funds. So the COP ones, we're just allocating directly back to that COP account so we can use them for those capital projects. Overall, the revenues, you know, we're supposed to be at about 16-17% since we're 2 months in of our target. Or that's our target, and we're actually at about 20% with all those results for revenues. And then the expenditures, we're about 13%. So we're sitting in a good place in relation to those ratios for expenditures, not trending as high as we originally thought. Salaries and wages are exactly where we thought they would be. And then purchased water is pretty close to where we were thinking that would be at 15%. Capital budget, we have We've spent about $526,000 so far this fiscal year. Primarily on the DLNO project, which is PAYGO. We have submitted some expenditure, we have incurred expenditures on the debt financing projects, but those are all incurred in the prior year. We haven't seen any current expenditures for the debt financing projects yet. That have been recorded as of August, anywho. In our reserves, we're 100% funded in our operating reserve, and we are 83% funded right now in our capital reserve. And then as far as our reserve for debt service, we're funding that so that way we can meet all our bond obligations by the beginning of December. So we're making sure that that's trending right to where we need it to be. High level, 2 months in, doing good so far. Short story long.
Money.
Yeah.
Well, we said I like following, games because they get to spend money.
No.
So, yeah. So we'll just, with this report, on this page, nothing really major to report. And so I'll entertain any questions on these 4 projects. I'll jump into the DLNO and district engineers report card in a second, but any questions on these on these projects? Okay, if not, I'll hop on down to the next page, which is the DLNO project. There was 2 progress payments that went out for this project. It's our capital project, replacing water main on DeKalb and Lincoln, and then working on Oak Knoll also. And so there was supposed to be 2 progress payment attachments. Unfortunately, I think it got duplicated, so there's both the same ones attached. So we'll go over this one here, progress payment number 2, which is the latest one. The project is on way ahead of schedule, which is good, and on budget so far. So what we try to do is detail out what has been installed and then talk about some potential change orders. The contractor, they're speeding through this so quickly that they're a little late on producing the required paperwork for change orders. They've given us the required notices, so we're recording everything as it goes along. So what I've done here is written down some of the potential change orders and assigned costs to them as we go along. Nothing really out of the ordinary on this project. It started out, the contractor is not the cleanest, not the most organized that we've worked with. So it just took a little time, the first couple of weeks, to get the groove on. They would leave equipment on the street, they would leave material on the street. And so, but after the second and third week, we got into a pretty good groove. And at the end of the day, they're installing the facilities per our specifications. That's the key thing, right? At the end, once it's all said and done, what we care about is it per spec, because we want to make sure that that facility lasts for 100+ years. But they are. So that's a good part. It's just they weren't the cleanest or the best to work with initially. So as I mentioned, if we scroll down to, well, let's go through the change orders real quick. So nothing really stands out here extraordinarily. The streets that we're working on are jam-packed with existing utilities that we know about. And then I detailed out there utilities that we didn't know about. So we were running into abandoned pipe a couple times throughout the project, a 2-inch and a 4-inch that were not on our system maps going back to when we had system maps. So we don't know who installed these or when they installed them, but it slows down the contractor. We work with them and negotiate those things as they go along, because it slows them down, right? It's called an unforeseen condition. So our specifications state what happens when they run into these kind of things, and it happens very frequently for underground construction, right? You just don't know what's underground. We do all of the research and we do our best, but we still run into these situations. So the cost wasn't too much, and then there was a really odd situation we ran into on Worcester Avenue on the cross country that we're taking out of service. we found that our maps and some of the coordination on where the services were connected weren't quite jiving, and so that required a little bit of time. But like I said, nothing out of the ordinary for this type of project, I would say. Any questions on the potential change orders? We'll have some costs here next, at the next board meeting on these.
Those are, you're anticipating, or those you have been sent notice about the change orders,
These are the ones we know about.
you know about already?
And they have to notify us within 2 or 3, I think it's 48 hours of any anticipated change orders. So they can't come back a month later and say, oh, that was extra.
Hmm.
So if we know about it, these are our change orders today.
Okay.
But they all, there's an inspector out there full-time that notes it, and then there's negotiations that goes on because the contractor will say, hey, that cost me this much, and we have the documentation, we go back and forth, and so it's not an easy task, especially with this contractor, so, but we'll work our way through it, so.
They're not stopping the work to wait for the change order.
No, they proceed, no, they proceed, they document it, we document it, and then we sit down, and work through it, so the work never stops. The only time the work really stops is if there's a safety issue. That's when that's when we issue the safety. They could walk off also, but it's really not advantageous for them to walk off for something like this. So, and then I have a note here to talk about a tour, so don't let me forget about that, so I'll circle back on that. And then there's some stuff that we deleted also, which happens on a project of this size. There's certain things that we thought we were gonna install, we didn't install, so they'll come off the contract price. The thing I wanted to talk about is this page is they have 81 days lit, so basically you're 50 days into the contract. All the mainline construction is done. It's been tested, pressure tested, so they put in 12-inch pipe. All of that 12-inch pipe is in, it's been pressure tested, and next week is being disinfected. So they're not even halfway through the contract period. This goes back to that question you were asking about the building, right? Like, we did, and so the way we came up with 130 days is we take the average of all the contractors that have worked with us and said they're gonna get up, 50 feet a day or 100 feet a day, and we average it, and then that's how we assign the number of days. But this contractor just threw a lot of assets to do this work, did it a little messy, but to our specifications, and because they had other work, right, they wanna get done with this and move on to the next one. Cause they're getting paid the same amount of money.
Yeah.
And so we're gonna save a lot of money on inspection costs now, right? Because the proposal for the inspection was based on 130 days. So that could happen for the building also. So you see the change order amount is 0 at this point, but I detailed out some potential that are coming. And as of this progress payment, which was August 31st, we're 58% in, so really no major issues that I want to report out at this point.
So when do you think they're gonna be done?
Well, done is relative, I guess. I like that the main line is done, because then I know I'm not gonna get major change orders, right? Because when they're not digging anymore, right? They're not digging the trench they're doing tie-ins and fire hydrants and paving and those kind of things. So we're anticipating probably mid-November, all said and done. Usually when they're this far ahead, they pull out their main construction, their main crew. And then they leave a skeleton crew to kind of do the other stuff.
Okay.
Next month, I'll report out on, and I think, Director Wheeler, you were out on the, when we relined the pipe.
Yeah.
And so I'll report that out because it actually happened not as part of this progress payment, but another one. So that was kind of a neat experience. Let's see, I included some photos for doing our project manager, including some photos. It's always really difficult to find exciting photos when you're digging and putting pipe in. But I look at it as a very safe project, so not exciting is good. If we go to the next page, Allison. So we connect all the pipes with these cables And the reason we do that is we protect the pipe with a sacrificial anode.
Mhm.
So basically, if you could think of a metal, any kind of metal that decays over time and corrodes, we put a sacrificial piece of magnesium that will corrode instead of the pipe. So we need everything bonded. These are called bonding. So everything's kind of one big piece of metal, basically, instead of individual pieces of pipe.
Yeah, cause there's three pieces of, material there, right? Two pieces of pipe and then a fitting in between.
Right, so that's why it's going to that fitting, and then from the fitting, it's going to
Yeah,
the
because
pipe.
the fitting is the insulation probably too, right?
They're all rubber insulated, so
That's right.
sometimes they get metal on metal,
So you
but
have
we
to
just wanna
jump,
make
yeah.
sure, so.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, yeah, so that was it, and the last thing is all of the reason we included that photo there is all of our trenches are, tested by a third-party geotechnical firm that comes out and tests it to make sure that it meets our specifications, and then our specifications are a bit more strict than the city specifications. So, and then we turn all this report back to the city, just so they know that we're testing. So that gentleman is pounding and putting a gauge on to make sure that we're meeting the compaction testing. So it's not gonna sink. Basically, that's preventing the road over time from creating a sinkhole. And the rest of the stuff is kind of backup information. We do our own analysis, and then the contractor provides their invoice, and we make sure that matches up. And there's a lot of detail there, but if you have any questions on the math, let me know. And then the next report is actually a duplicate, so we'll skip over that, but it was progress payment number 1 came in when we were dark in August, so there was just some dollars that went out. That's all I have on DLNO. Do you have any questions that I can answer? Nope. Okay,
Very
great. Oh,
exciting
sorry.
photos.
Oh, the tour. Yes, I had a note here for the tour. Thank you. And I said, remind me, and I forgot. Okay, so Monday, Tuesday, these guys are going at such high clip that, and we were dark in August, so I was theoretically at this time, we would be in mainline construction. It would be a great time to come out and see it. They got ahead of us coming out for a tour, but Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week are a great time to come out. You won't see mainline construction, but what you'll see is them connecting these pipes to our system, right? So that's kind of a cool thing to see. So if you're available, let me know. We'll have the protective gear, the hard hat, and the vest. But I just want to make sure our inspector is aware of it and when you come out. So if you want to look at your schedule, let me know the time that works, maybe after the meeting, or if you want to let me know now, I can jot it down. Looks like, Chuck, you're ready to go, so.
Yeah, I'm good for Tuesday.
Tuesday, okay, what time for you?
You tell me what works.
Anytime, we can work around your schedule.
1.
1 o'clock, okay. How about 1:30? They may be just coming off lunch, so
Okay.
they may, okay, I'll do that.
You can watch me at lunch.
Yeah, well,
Grind that sandwich.
Yep, okay. And if anybody
Where
else-
am I meeting you here or? at the-
I'll communicate with you on the location, and I'll have our inspector reach out directly.
Okay.
Anyone else interested?
Check my schedule.
Matt, dude, you've never seen any of this, so.
It's like,
Super excited to,
I'm more than happy to defer to other directors.
all right. Anyway, you can let me know afterward. You don't need to let me know. So, and then the last piece that I wanted to just cover was our report card. So this is something that we produce every year. We could sit here and tell you, let's see, that is on page 236, if we can start on that page. So we could sit here and tell you how great of a district engineer we are and what great work we do, but I wanted to, as I developed this along with my partners for our water district clients, I think about 10 plus years ago. And we sat down with the general manager and general managers and said, what are the things that you care about? How would you measure our success? How would you measure that we're doing a good job? So the first thing that we look at, which is table 1, which is probably the most important, you hear all these horror stories of public works projects just going over budget, right? Consistently 20, 30, 40% over budget. So are we doing a good job as your district engineers, making sure that we're staying within the 10% average, right? So the average in California is about 10% for underground construction. How are we doing in that comparison? So that first table is looking at all your capital projects going back 10 years, looking at the original construction costs. There's two categories of change orders. One is the owner initiated change orders. That's stuff that we as a district have added to the project. So we pull that out because we asked for it, right? We either added stuff or you know, took stuff out. The category that we're interested in is the non-owner initiated change orders. That's the change orders that as an owner, we didn't ask for. So that the average for that for all the projects over the last 10 years is about 3.72%. And I made a note, the harbor water main improvements, and I know two of the directors were not here for that, but that was a very painful project. And again, it's reflected here on the change order amount. We ran into rock, we had a challenging contractor, so it drove up the change order cost. But on average, we're about 3.7%. So if we go to, any questions on this analysis? If not, let's go to the next page, which is, well, that's great that there's no change orders, but you could be spending a ton of money designing this thing, right? Are we getting a Mercedes-Benz of design? So what we did on this page was compare the percentage of design fee and construction management fee as a percentage to the total contract price. And this was analysis that quickly, I think Louis and Matt did when they saw the dollars come in for the construction management for the building, right? As a percentage of the total. So again, the smaller the project, the more challenging it gets, right? Because percentages kind of get skewed. So you can see the smaller projects have a higher percentage. So that's why we combine projects, because a district gets more bang for its buck. You're spending the same amount of money to go out to bid for a $1 million project and a $3 million project, but you don't want to get too big because then it really stresses out the staff and, you know, the residents and so forth. So that sweet spot is like between $3 to $5 million for our size district. So looking at this, again, the Harbor Boulevard was really challenging, and that's noted there. So the construction management costs increased as a percentage, but overall we're under our target for design and then right at target for construction management. And then lastly, the parameter that we looked at with the general managers said, okay, that's great. You looked at change orders, you looked at the percentage of design. But what about other stuff that's not design related? There's a lot of work that I do for the district that's not related to a project. It's helping the staff, you know, helping Kat, helping Sarah, helping Rena. So how does your billing rates look? And so the last chart is comparing our billing rates to other consultants that either work for the district or are in the area, you know, on the peninsula. So we're right in the ballpark or a little bit lower. So those are the three parameters. This report card, I put it together annually. If there's other information you want on here, let me know. But these three seem like they hit all the three that we want to hit. So thank you. Any questions I can answer on this?
Who are EKI?
Oh.
Oh, no.
They always make us look on the billing rates. So thank you.
Some low-end firm that can't work for this district.
So I have, Chuck, I have you at 1:30, and then if there's anyone else, just let me know after the meeting. On Tuesday.
But if anything, Jugan, I'll call you.
Pardon me?
So if anything, if I can put, you know, carve out maybe an hour or so.
Yeah, just text me. You have my cell number.
Yeah.
Yeah, just text me. That's fine.
It'll be Monday, because Tuesday we're off to Hetchy.
Yep.
Oh, you're on that one? Nice, so much.
Oh, wow.
You want to? Yeah. Okay.
Don't get a third one.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
Sarah's too.
It's gonna be the Mid-Pin
Oh,
show.
yeah.
There's a great tour tomorrow of the San
I'm
Francisco.
not going as a result of this.
I'm
going to that.
Are you going to that one? Yeah, I'll be there for that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Thank you.
Okay. Allison?
All right, so some things that I'll touch on is the transition to our express bill pay. So through August and September, we still had some growing pains with it. In August, we still had 1,600 customers that had not switched over to auto pay and had not been paying their bill. So we sent out a mass email to those 1,600. Out of those 1,600 by September, we had 634 customers that were remaining. So now they were 3 months behind, as well as not signed up for auto pay. One of the last things that we did before shutting off their water and to communicate with them is, I'm very grateful for the ops teams, but they proceeded to hang door tags onto 634 customer doors. And within about a week, we are less than 100 customers that need to pay their bill and sign up for auto pay.
I'm assuming I'm not one of those.
No, but I was
Kind of giving it 50-50 to be honest with you, but.
I was asked by Misty to call one of the police officers over at the city. Because they were one of the
I
doors.
saw, Allison, can I give us a little look over this way, but I went, wait a minute.
No, hopefully we've been talking enough about this that you guys all knew about it, so you guys are good.
Obviously, we're not the people who pay the bill,
No.
somebody else does.
No, but those door tags were beneficial. I am extremely grateful because that took a lot of the ops teams.
Of course,
to
yeah,
wrap
yeah.
around.
It took a lot of time too.
It took a lot of
for people to
time.
do it.
For sure.
We should charge for that too.
And, you know, I would say, like, it's been really interesting and great to hear like all of the phone conversations with folks and how great our customer service staff is at like talking people down after they got the door hangers. It's, no, it's okay. We've tried to reach you a number of different ways. This is our last resort. Take a deep breath. We're not turning off your water. We just need you to pay your bill. Like, it's been, you know, a lot of those really very patient, very calming conversations. So it's been,
For sure. For sure.
it'd be nice when they are quiet again, but.
Well, the reason I asked is it wouldn't be the first time that I was within 48 hours of having my water shut off because I've been on this board, so.
Well, I'll put your name on my list.
Mhm.
There's a lot of information on the Aqua JPIA updates on the benefits, in regards to the insurance and the rates increasing and decreasing that you can read on. But something that's kind of exciting right now is we're recruiting for our maintenance and or water system operator recruitments. So we've had that recruitment open for about a month now. We're at 46 applicants, which is really great for us. So right now, Sarah, Michael, Kat, and myself, we're all sifting through the applications. So those first round interviews will be happening in the next couple of weeks.
And you interview roughly how many?
So it really just depends on like who we're looking for. So we're really kind of looking for those entry level people that are starting out early in their career. We have a lot of high performing employees right now. So we're looking for those ones that we can kind of just see that are early on in their career, that we can kind of teach them the Mid-Pen way and get them going how we want to, you know, see our employees trained. So if I had to ballpark it, I would say we would probably interview about 10.
I was gonna say, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
About 10 to 12
Mhm.
most. There's too many, you know.
Just
so.
recently, we got a good group of them. A lot of unions are actually coming out right now.
Really?
Yeah, so a lot of the unions currently in San Francisco are saturated. So those early on, you know,
Really
employees
clear.
are just trying to get in. They're not picking up as many hours. So they're trying to now, you know, get out and try to find some other,
Something more permanent.
yeah, something more permanent, something more with, you know, obviously a pension that they can find stability for. So they gave it a try, but they're not picking up the hours. So I saw an influx of unions probably within this last week.
Good, pick a good one.
Yeah, for sure. Another thing that we can highlight is we did purchase AEDs for the trucks. So all of the trucks that are pretty much utilized every day, they are now equipped with AEDs. That is for the benefit of our own employees being out and about. A lot of the times our guys are with 2 in a truck. So it's beneficial in that sense, but it's also beneficial to have it out in the community as well. And then eSource, we are finally, oh, I'm sorry,
I said that's good, that's a very cheap investment, you know?
yes. We also were trained
So,
on them about a month
Correct,
prior.
so, and then obviously they're out and about and they're gonna encounter some incident, you know?
Correct.
I've done it many times.
Mhm.
So that, I don't know how the liability works these days on using it and then if you don't use it properly.
Good Samaritan.
Okay.
Liability if you use an AED on someone and something goes sideways, is it just Good Samaritan?
Yeah, but there's a lot of folks like talking about that and a lot of our public transit folks, because a lot of buses are starting to have Narcan, and that's the same
Correct,
sort
yeah,
of thing. And
exactly, yeah.
people are pretty freaked out about it, because you could save a life, but what
Yeah.
if the person's not actually overdosing?
Correct,
And you
yeah,
give them
I
Narcan.
carried Narcan with me my entire career, I always had that.
Yeah.
So
But these AEDs, right, you can't, they
Yeah, so
won't work.
that's correct. So
Yeah, they
the
won't work if
AEDs,
you're not
yeah.
dead.
When you place the AED, the pad's on you, they'll talk to you and they will let you know if the or not.
Yeah.
So there's that safeguard in place.
Yeah.
So if you follow the instruction and
Right,
something
it talks,
does go
yeah,
wrong, I
it
mean,
talks to you.
you know, you follow the instruction.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they're
it's
pretty-
just that people are people and
Yeah.
they can still sue you and you still have to like deal with that.
Yeah.
But I think it's better to try to save someone's life and deal with the consequences than
Yeah.
be afraid of getting sued.
And then just kind of tying up loose ends on the eSource for our audit, we finally have given all of the data points to eSource. Finally, it took us a long time to get all of that information from our billing system. So their
Billing system or census.
that's well both.
Yeah.
So it's looking like they're kind of giving us a rough estimate on possibly being completely done by mid-December. So we'll hopefully be sticking to that timeline.
We didn't question them on it, but I will point out that a lot of eSource's business is doing this water loss audit validation, and that's the busy season, so that's the schedule update they gave us, but I do know it's their busy season, so see.
Yeah, I'd pop in there.
I did want to ask a question on
Of course.
that, on the express bill pay, are we seeing people pay their bills earlier, the ones that are on the system?
So they set their date. So you have a parameter of between the 1st and the 10th of when you can set up when it can be deducted from your credit card or your bank account. So it's not really so much that we're seeing them pay early as much as they're just paying on time.
Okay.
Quick note, this for harassment, the typo again on the name.
On who's,
Fix your autocorrect.
It's,
I know it.
go Gate Tape.
Override.
I got a phone to pick with that guy.
So I'm due. Well, in October, I'm due. Right? Okay. So, operations.
Yeah, I'll give the report this month. On the very first page, the very first item there are the projects. The Honda dealership on Industrial Road, they made some improvements there, and when they made the improvements, they made some improvements to the water system. They added a domestic water meter there and also an irrigation water meter, I think a fire service as well. So in doing that, our old water meter had been in the sidewalk. So it was requested that we move it out of the sidewalk. So actually what's here is they gave us an easement, 150 square foot easement. So that we could put our water meters, the 2 water meters and the fire service connection in this easement. And the idea was just to let the board know that we were given an easement for these water facilities. And they're in the process of getting that easement recorded with the county. That's, I want to just make you aware of that. That doesn't always happen. Typically, we come here and say, hey, there's an easement that we either need to vacate or somebody's gonna give us, and it's typically, especially if it's a vacation, the board's gotta approve it. But we just wanna make you aware that somebody's given us an easement for some water infrastructure, there on Industrial Road. And then on the next page, the piece under for maintenance that I like to point out too is just how active we've been doing the underground service alerts, the USA alerts. So during the month of July, we had 290 requests, and in the month of August, it went down by 50, down to 240. The rolling average for the last 12 months has been 268, so kind of on par for what our average is. So not bad, just busy, constantly busy. And Michael's got rotation going there, so all of the gentlemen that work out there in the field get a chance to do the underground locations request. On the next page, under system repairs and under report, didn't have any water leaks to report for the months of July and August, which is a good thing, and maybe we can attribute some of that to, you know, we've been spending a lot of money fixing some of the bad stuff, some of the older things, but occasionally we'll have, you know, a water leak, but we just didn't have any in the month of July or August. And then on the last page, page 240 under admin, just kind of want to point out that Chris Michaelis, he's our oldest tenured employee. I think he's got like 32 years now. He just passed his T1 exam. He promoted to a lead operator, and to maintain that lead operator title, he needed to have more than one certificate. So he's got his water distribution certificate, but he needed to get something else, and so he passed the T1 exam. So now Chris has got a T2, a D2, and a T1 certificate. So congratulations, Chris, on passing the exam. And I just want to point out that welcome Sarah, the new sheriff in town. She started on August 4th, and so she's telling people the other day that she's been here now 7 weeks. And then this is my second to last meeting, so next month will be the last meeting. I'll be with here at the board meeting at almost 10 and a half years.
Wow.
Yeah. I'll miss the interaction with the board and
When we hired you,
Mhm.
not us, but you know,
yeah.
metaphorically.
So any questions on anything that we're sharing with the board?
So I guess that Chris is hell bent to stay here forever, huh?
Chris is in his early 50s, and I think he said that, you know, he'll probably retire. I mean, he could retire now if he wanted to.
Yeah, I'm
you know,
sure
but I
he
think he
maxed
wants,
out, right?
yeah, he wants to stick around for a few more years.
But he's too young to retire?
I
or
think he's 55, 53?
53.
53?
Actually, he'll be 54 next
Not
month,
sure
I think.
if we,
Yeah, he's close. What?
not sure if that should.
So, yeah, he's in his mid 50s, you know, but
Okay,
God,
so
to
he's
be
still
with the
a
district
few
for
more years
32
to
years,
go.
you know, he's a kid when he started here, you know?
That's right.
Think about
right,
that.
yeah. Good for him.
Yeah,
Good guy.
good guy, he's a good guy.
Good guy, great.
So I have confirmed there is no recorded convictions of anyone using an AED.
Good.
All right.
Shock away.
No shock.
We can be the first.
Okay,
All right,
Bring it on home.
yeah.
we're getting close.
We still have closed session after this, so. I will try to be quick here. Tell me if I need to be quicker. So we celebrated Ron Okada's retirement with lunch. So that was great. I mean, you know, it was obviously a very bittersweet celebration. He was, you know, such a patient part of our team, and but I'm sure he's glad to not have to solve every customer's problem all the time, all day long, so he can relax and enjoy his retirement. So operations manager, of course, we have our new manager, and Rena, who did not want a ton of fanfare for a big giant retirement bash like we tried to talk him into, but we will be hosting a retirement lunch for him, and it'll be
Want to make sure we didn't have to break out the AED.
it'll be the same day as the board meeting, so we'll do lunch same day as the October board meeting. If you want 2 meals with us, we'll send out the invites later.
Great.
we participated in Belmont National Night Out again. This was the 42nd event that they did. That was a wonderful event attended by quite a few of us, including.
So I take it that they're not doing the national out the way they used to all over the town. It's gonna be in certain.
It was interesting because they actually moved the location to the kind of that nice grassy area next to the library
Yeah,
instead of the
yeah.
library parking lot. Which was kind of really a much more relaxed, open area.
As opposed to,
So it got more attendance, it
it's
felt
okay.
like. They also had a band. I guess there was a band technically last year, but no one could hear them or see them, so it was quite nice. So they're still doing the neighborhood ones, but this is a more attractive central location.
But they don't have them all over town like
They
there is.
do.
I went to the Alexander and the O'Donnell one. They still have it.
I didn't notice one up by us, so, or there was any, and usually, I used to organize those when I was involved with and I haven't seen it for several years now.
Yeah, I walked through the one at Mezzi's, and it was smaller than it had been in the past, but, it is really just a small community there.
Okay.
We had a visit from Supervisor Noelia Corzo. So she covers most of our district in her district overlap.
She is gonna give us the money, right?
Well, she got a good introduction to what we do. She got to, meet a couple of our staff. President Wheeler was there, and I think she has, she said she has a much better understanding and appreciation for what we do. She hadn't previously really thought. As we often hear, like, nobody really thinks about water and everything that goes into it, and also the needs and the risk and the, projects that are associated with it. So she got her eyes opened. We also heard from one of our staffers, Jackie Ragoni, who's quite wonderful to talk with. So, just building that relationship, and we're, looking for opportunities that we can work
Good.
together.
That's very good.
So we'll continue, and they recommended, that Supervisor Ray Mueller come out, and so they actually told his office he should come out, so we're working on scheduling that tour as well, so we'll gotta catch them all. Put them all out here, so. The risk and resilience assessment, so I had mentioned before that we're gonna hire firm Brian and Loretta to prepare this document. 5 years ago, we prepared it in-house, so this is taking it one step further, another set of eyes. So they'll be working on, evaluating, doing the risk assessment. Of course, working closely with Jubin's team and our team, and see, if we can do a really, a thorough job in identifying potential risks. So we had the kickoff meeting for that, and this is just kind of a little overview of the types of things that assessment covers. Certainly a focus on fire preparedness and risk as well. We're scheduling the site walks. San Mateo Consolidated Fire has agreed to send a couple of folks to our site walks. PD is also participating, so we appreciate their support for sure. You all might have seen the press release that City of Belmont has hired their new public works director. I also attached the press release if you haven't seen it here. He started this Monday, Edric Kwan. So we're excited to work with him. I had met him previously, and Jubin mentioned he knows him pretty well through MPWD. So a lot of transitions at the city, but it should be good. Good. Yeah. We had a couple of coordination meetings actually with Public Works recently. Very successful. Some of you may have certainly heard discussion of city's paving and trench standards. The discussion that's been going on since 2019 through multiple public works
I
directors
think Edric was the
and
fourth.
GMs,
Yeah.
unless you count interim public
Yeah,
works
that's
directors
true.
too. So, yeah. So we are actually drafting an MOU. We've come to agreement on almost everything, and there's one point that we're continuing to discuss. So we're close to getting that buttoned up, which is very exciting. Related to that, we have not scheduled the 2x2 meeting, knowing the new public works director was coming in imminently. So now we can breathe, and I will be emailing, the city next week. We also had a really great coordination meeting with San Mateo Consolidated Fire. Deputy Marshal Martin came out, actually a couple days ago. And we discussed quite a few coordination things that were kind of, had been on our mind for a while, and, you know, I think it's going to be a really good relationship. We've already identified things to improve, such as getting into their call system when there is a fire within the district for them to reach out and notify us so that we, our operators. can-
Absolutely, yeah.
So that's been something we've asked multiple times in multiple ways and haven't been able to do that yet, but now it's actually going to happen. So that's great.
We also got some feedback on stress testing our system.
Yeah.
After the fires in LA, and it's just been something on our radar that we wanna use the hydraulic model to stress test, and if there's a urban wildfire or urban, yeah, I think it's called.
Wildland urban interface.
Interface, yeah.
Yeah, that.
WUI fire.
So we got some input on where those fires could potentially come from and where they would stage. So we're gonna put really high demand, 6,000, 7,000 gallons per minute. We won't be able to maintain it, but we'll have an idea of how long our water system will last. And so that's the stress testing we're gonna be doing.
And another scenario, also a major industrial fire too.
Right.
We talked
So we
about
got
different scenarios.
four scenarios.
So every month, the Harbor Industrial Association, there is a presentation given by someone related to the area, usually an agency or an entity that serves the area. And this month, someone blabbed about water for a while. And I'd given the presentation last year as well, but I think, I think it went well. I think it was very well received. It's always fun.
Very well.
I asked Howard if he wanted anybody to talk about sewage, and he hasn't gotten back to me.
Well, we'll think about it.
Howard?
Howard, yeah, John.
I don't think Howard will respond to anybody much. He's not doing well.
No, I got an email from him a while back then. I replied to the email.
That's what Mark said, right? That-
Yeah, he's
that
not doing well,
Not
unfortunately.
doing well at all, health wise.
Hmm.
So anyway,
But we'll let them know that you
Yeah.
really want to come talk about.
Mark was copied on the email too, so neither of them got back to me. It's fine. I don't really need to go talk to him.
it's important, right? Come on.
Mm-hmm.
They've been more concerned with the planning correct between.
Well, no, so here's the irony. They reached out to us, and
Yeah.
it just took a while to get back to them. Then I got back to them, and they're like, "I didn't read this." I'm like, "Okay, that's fine." They replied at least.
I mentioned here, we're gonna issue an RFQ for IT services. Our IT companies had quite a number of staffing changes, and we felt a lot of impacts as a result. So it's time to ask the question of what else is out there. If you spend a lot of time on the agenda webpage on our website, you'll see over the next couple months, it will change a couple of times. What happened is the current agenda software that we use is being shut off at the end of this month. We worked with the same company to adopt their new software, but through that process, we decided it's really not the right product for the district. We identified another company, another service called Civic Plus. That's actually a little bit less expensive, but there's a lot of reasons it's a better fit for the district. So we're gonna work on adopting that. That does mean for the next couple of months until that's fully adopted, we'll revert old school to.
So this RFQ is to replace Stepford or
That's
system?
the RFQ for IT services is for the Stepford type IT
Okay, yeah,
managed
Yeah, yeah.
services. The agenda software is the actual like page on our website will change, and then the behind the scenes, the software that generates the agenda itself and publishes the agenda will change. But for a couple months, we'll have to do it manual, old school, compiling the PDF. So you'll just see some differences, but not anything tremendous. And like I said, the cost impact is minimal, so. Here's an update on the treasuries. I almost forgot this happened in this time window because it happened like right after the last board meeting. That was 2 months ago. But we had some, there's missing a decimal, by the way, in that number. We don't have $117 million, unfortunately. That's not right. No, but we have almost 12 million in the treasury portfolio. We had moved some out to, or rather more liquid reserves a while back. So about 4.8 million came up, and so we reinvested that into 3 9-month treasury bonds. So and we got great yields on that for year. 4.3 5% on the 3-month and 4.19 on the 9-month. So it's still more favorable than the LAIF, although that gap is closing quickly. So we'll keep assessing, but this little visual, I had to shorten it because it's been going on since 2022, but this is the most recent activity there on that portfolio, what that looks like. I think everything else is less exciting. So let me know if there's any questions on anything else in here, but those are the key things I wanted to highlight.
Okay. Any questions? Director's report. No, first?
Yeah, so I went to the CSDA conference as well. I'm looking forward to the SFPUC tour tomorrow, and did the couple of the locations for the Belmont National Night Out. And hopefully we'll see some of you at the Water Dog Run on Saturday. I know I have a presence there, so it'll be nice to see Steph there. And I'll wear my badge when I walk, because I won't. Because you won't see me for a month if I leave. So, yeah, it's been busy.
You said they're going to the SFPC tour tomorrow?
Yeah. June's hardening infrastructure.
It's basically their in-city infrastructure. It's through Aqua. It was through Aqua Region 5.
5?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, all right.
They had a dinner tonight too, and then.
Yeah, some
and then a
cocktail
tour
or something
tomorrow, so-
thing. and
Oh,
that
cool.
kind of blew it on.
Good.
That's all I have.
Oh, the HIA meeting, that,
Yeah.
you were there too? And Pat killed it, she did very good. She did a very, very good presentation. And everybody was paying attention, and you had a lot of questions too. Questions.
Everyone
And
turns
then,
into a water nerd.
And then tomorrow, Tuesday and Wednesday, we're gonna go on the Hutch Hutchy tour.
That's the 2-day.
So, 2-day, yeah, 1 night, 2-day, yeah. And Sarah's gonna be there too. And Matt.
When it comes back.
That's it.
You have anything, man?
No, not much. HHG tour going as STCW, not Mid-Pen, not that it affects the Brown Act, I know. And same old.
Well, we had our GM subcommittee
Yeah.
meeting, in September, which I think we
We
get
have
to
a closed
talk about.
session on it
in
tonight,
closed session.
yeah, exactly.
And that's September.
That's it? Right. All of mine, HIA and Corzo and Ron's retirement.
Oh,
and
are you able to make it?
I did make it.
Good.
I didn't play the game, but I did.
That was,
I was stuck in a meeting.
The food was really good.
yeah, it
I
was excellent
intended to
barbecue.
come, but I was in South City and I just couldn't get out of it, so.
You didn't get to play Family Feud.
So if you.
Yeah, Misty puts together great
It was great.
Family Feud games for retirement. It's a lot of fun.
Ron shared a picture that we shared at our rap session this afternoon. He and his wife were up in Oregon. And he took a picture of this redwood penstock, 12-foot diameter piece of redwood, and it I guess he said it goes from a reservoir to a hydro plant, right, generate electricity. Well, the picture was that the redwood penstock was just leaking water all over the place. It was under pressure, just water's coming out, you know. But we initially looked at the picture, we're saying, how big is that thing, you know, cause I think, Victor Fung was talking about it. And he said something 12 inch, you go, that can't be 12 inch, it looks too big, or, you know, the scale's wrong, or, oh, no, I meant 12 foot. So this thing is big, 12 foot's a, you know, big piece of pipe, wooden pipe, redwood pipe,
Wooden pipe.
redwood pipe. Yeah, still in service.
That's what pipes used to be even down here.
So they just make it out of pieces and put a steel band around
You can see all the steel bands, look like every 6 inches per foot or something like that on this thing, you know, and it was leaking.
And so.
It was in Oregon someplace.
Well,
Yeah.
you guys, I'm sure you'll probably see, I was amazed at the conference in Monterey. There was, I don't know, I think you went, and Allison, you went, I don't know if you went to the breakout session of the town up in Sierras that had it was like a 218 nightmare scenario, and they were talking about their infrastructure and that they still use the wooden flume systems in part of their infrastructure, which I couldn't believe, but it's still functional. So, yeah, that stuff clearly built to last. Hopefully you'll see some of that.
Not great for water loss, but.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe they make pipe out of it.
Okay. Communications, do we have any communications to announce? Then we can go to this session. And let most of you go home.
Yeah, you can see.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll take a brief break to graduate and.
No report.
We can we are reconvening from closed session.
And
Do you have a
there's
report?
no reportable action from either closed session.
Thank you. And with that, we will adjourn. Thank you all.
Thank you.